Warrior Lore. Chapter 34:19. News of the Thunder Clan's top techniques had already spread in this starfield. Many people were paying attention to Zichun. However, Zichun had been hiding in the void, and no one could do anything about it. Now, the opportunity had come. Zichun was expressionless as he looked at the holy spirits who were quickly approaching him and those who were moving stealthily in the dark. This time, he was going to do something big. Not to make an example out of them, but to get more resources. This void was very suitable for his cultivation, but it also consumed a lot of resources. Zichun, you finally showed up? A 2-star holy spirit said in a cold voice. Zichun looked at him and nodded. Yes, thank you. The 2-star saint spirit's face was filled with shock. What did he mean by thank you? Was he scared out of his wits by so many holy spirits? The next moment, his expression froze. The Holy Spirit flying dagger went through his mind, leaving a trail of blood. Zichun walked forward and took the Holy Spirit's body. The other Holy Spirits around him were shocked and retreated. It's the Thunder Blade manipulation. It's a powerful technique of the Holy Thunder Clan. Retreat quickly. Some Holy Spirits exclaimed and retreated. Zichun stepped forward and said with a smile, everyone, since you're already here, don't leave. The Holy Spirit flying dagger turned into a flash of lightning and disappeared in front of him. At the same time, Zichun cupped his fists at the retreating Holy Spirits and said sincerely, Zichun will remember this kindness. Thank you for your generous help. Many people were so angry that they wanted to curse. Buzz. The Holy Spirit flying dagger flew around, and the Holy Spirits' heads were pierced one after another. This was not the Thunder Blade manipulation, but the Holy Thunder Blade manipulation. The Holy Spirits died one after another. Zichun did not care whether they were dead or not, as long as these resources were real. Swoosh. Zichun's cupped fists suddenly disappeared. A flash of sword light slashed across his body. The 3-star Holy Spirit who came out of stealth looked at the disappearing figure and was slightly stunned. Here. Zichun's voice came from behind him. The 3-star Holy Spirit's face changed. When he turned around, the Holy Spirit light on his body erupted, and he slashed out with his long sword. The sword light swept forward, and Zichun's figure was split into two. It was still an afterimage. So fast, the 3-star Holy Spirit's mind trembled. Suddenly, he felt all the energy in his body slipping away. Just as he lowered his head, he realized that there was a bloody mark on his body. This is? Before he could react, a surge of energy entered his sea of consciousness and annihilated his soul. After killing a 3-star Holy Spirit with a single slash, Zichun swiftly arrived in front of the second 3-star Holy Spirit and punched out. With a loud bang, the 3-star Holy Spirit was sent flying. His face was filled with shock as he quickly formed a seal with his hands. The Saint Spirit energy in his body gathered in front of him, forming a square light seal. His reaction is fast, but it's a pity he's too slow. Zichun's voice came from beside him. Then, a flash of saber light swept past his opponent's body. The square-shaped light seal disappeared from the world once again. After taking away the 3-star Holy Spirit's body, Zichun looked around. As far as the eye could see, there were more than a dozen Holy Spirit corpses. The rest of the Holy Spirits were fleeing. These Holy Spirits were either 1-star or 2-star Holy Spirits. They thought that they might be able to take advantage of the situation. Who knew that they would be slaughtered? Since you're here, don't leave. Zichun's spiritual senses immediately extended and shrouded this ruined planet. The next moment, the Holy Spirit flying dagger began to fly in this world according to Zichun's guidance. This was the real killing of enemies thousands of miles away. Before a 2-star Holy Spirit who was about to escape this world could reach the void, the Holy Spirit flying dagger reached him in a flash and disappeared into his sea of consciousness. Looking at the void close at hand, the 2-star Holy Spirit's body fell back to the ground. This was a massacre. As long as Zichun wanted to, none of the 1-star and 2-star Holy Spirits could survive. From another perspective, one could see how terrifying the Holy Thunder Saber manipulation technique was. Zichun did not use the Holy Spirit flying dagger to kill the Holy Spirits who had fled far away because they were too far away. Even if he killed them, it would be useless. There were still many enemies here. These people would never give him a chance to pick up the spoils. The 1-star and 2-star holy spirits had either fled or died. The remaining ones were all 3-star holy spirits. Compared to those people, their combat power was much stronger. Zichun rushed forward and used the 9 flashes of holy thunder to collect the spoils in the distance. Many 3-star holy spirits caught up and used powerful attacks to stop him. Zichun's figure flashed. While avoiding these attacks, he approached the corpses and collected the spoils. This was relatively fast. After collecting all the spoils nearby, Zichun turned around and looked at the 3-star holy spirits. His eyes were full of murderous intent. He was only a 2-star holy spirit. Once he refined the holy crystals they had turned into, there was a great chance that he could break through. He charged into the battlefield and started a bloody battle. His extreme speed coupled with the demonic blade caused the 3-star holy spirits to die one after another in front of Zichun. However, Zichun was surrounded and attacked by so many people. He also started to get injured, but his injuries were very light. Get out of my way. Chapter 34:20. The two of them had fought many times and had long been mortal enemies. They were also very familiar with each other. Of course, they would not hold back this time. The complete lion roar was deafening and affected the soul. Many 3-star holy spirits retreated again and again, not daring to get close. Zhu Kuei stood in the distance and watched this scene quietly. Whether Tanxiu could rise or not depended on this battle. His men had already been arranged around. As long as Tanxiu killed Zichun, he could guarantee that Tanxiu would get Zichun's body and the soul that was about to dissipate. His gaze fell on Zichun. Zhu Kuei frowned slightly. What were the thunderballs on the surface of this guy's body? At this moment, Tanxiu moved. He turned into a fistful lion and stepped into the sky, heading straight for Zichun. Zichun held the scabbard tightly with his left hand and the hilt with his right. The power of thunder madly converged on the blade, causing the scabbard to begin to tremble. At the same time, the demon bone was activated, and the 2 thunderballs also sank into it. The lion approached with a mighty aura. Zichun's black hair danced wildly, and his robes flapped. Zichun looked at the lion indifferently. His eyes lit up. It was the eye of destruction. The fistful energy that formed the lion was thick and smooth. It was tightly connected, and there were no flaws at all. This was Tanxiu's strongest attack, and it was much stronger than before. But Zichun was not afraid, because the greatest function of the Eye of Destruction was destruction. His eyes lit up. The invasion of an unfamiliar energy made the lion, which was formed by countless fistful energies, loosen for a moment, as if it was about to collapse. This feeling disappeared in a flash, as if it was an illusion. Just as Tanxiu was surprised and unsure if he was affected, Zichun pulled out his saber. His strongest attack. A shining thunder saber arc cut through the sky like a waterfall and swept into the distance. The terrifying lion was split into 2. The 4-star Tanxiu appeared with a bloody wound on his body. Blood flowed from the wound. The Holy Spirit light on his body became very dim, but he was not dead. His eyes were fixed on Zichun. His face was filled with unwillingness and disbelief. His comprehension of the technique was very perfect, and there were no flaws at all. Why was he unable to kill a mere 2-star? Zichun's face was a little pale. His previous all-out attack had consumed a lot of his energy. In the distance, Zhu Kuei was stunned. The surroundings were also in an uproar. The lion from before was so terrifying, but it didn't hurt Zichun at all. Instead, it was a 4-star holy spirit that was injured? Impossible. Tanxiu's voice was a complete roar. He could not accept this reality. Zichun said in a deep voice, "You are indeed very strong, but I'm sorry that you met me." With that, Zichun began to form hand seals. This was the first time he had formally formed hand seals since his battle with Tanxiu. This was also the main reason why he chose to fight here. In the void, the energy hand could appear at any time, and he did not dare to try. And here, forming the hand seal meant ending the battle. "I don't believe it. You have to die." Tanxiu roared again, and the fist intent on his body continued to swirl around. The lion that Zichun had split apart earlier appeared again. Zichen looked at Tan Xiao with a cold and pitiful gaze. This was indeed an amazing expert, and he knew how to create his own technique. He had combat strength and talent. But unfortunately, he met him. Zichun completed the hand seal. Lightning controlling technique. A thunderous roar resounded in the sky above this world. The world suddenly lit up. The lightning was glaring, and everyone subconsciously closed their eyes. Lightning fell from the sky and struck Tanshio. The roar was deafening, and the whole world was shaking. The lion collapsed instantly, and at the same time, the lightning entered Tanshio's body. Tanshio felt a vast, ancient, and terrifying power surge into his body. In the next moment, the lightning power that he had cultivated was directly destroyed. He did not even have time to think, and his soul was also obliterated. The lightning controlling technique had consumed all of Zichen's power, including a lot of his life force. In his perception, Tanshio's body disappeared. This was the lightning controlling technique, a terrifying technique that no one in the Thunder clan could master. When the glaring lightning dissipated, Zichun stood in front of the dead Tanshio and took away his body. The other divine spirits in the distance were confused, and they did not know what had happened. "Damn it!" Zhu Kuei shouted angrily, and the aura of a 5-star divine spirit erupted. The more terrifying pressure caused the 3-star divine spirits to come back to their senses. The 4-star divine spirit that was very terrifying to them was killed by the 2-star Zichun. Although it was hard to believe, they had seen it with their own eyes. Just as Zhu Kuei rushed forward, many 4-star divine spirits and 5-star divine spirits approached Zichun. This world had been completely sealed. Zichun could not escape even if he had wings. Many people were shocked and excited, and their eyes were full of greed. A 2-star divine spirit could kill a 4-star divine spirit. Other than his potential, another important reason was that he had mastered a powerful technique. Therefore, those 4-star existences and above could not hold themselves back and decided to attack Zichen. Facing the siege of so many experts, Zichen only had 1 life. Even if he had 10 lives, it would not be enough to kill him. Looking at the experts rushing toward him and sensing their soul auras, Zichen's expression was still calm. He remembered their faces and auras, and said in a deep voice, "Everyone, Zichen will repay your kindness double in the future." As soon as he finished speaking, a talisman appeared in front of Zichen. It was left behind by the little girl when she escaped, and now it was activated by him. The ancient word, escape, started to shine, shining and dazzling. "Oh no, it's a space escape talisman. He's trying to escape." Some divine spirits cried out in alarm. Zhu Kuei sped up, and his eyes were full of killing intent. Today's events were completely beyond his expectations. He did not dare to imagine that a 2-star Zichun could kill Tanshio. However, no matter how fast he was, he could not be faster than the activation of the talisman. As the attacks approached, the escape talisman was activated. A strong and dazzling light enveloped Zichun and took him away from this world. "Damn it, we can't let him escape." Zhu Kuei roared and ordered others to start searching for Zichen. Zichen appeared in the void. As he had expected, this place was safer than anywhere else. Not long after, divine spirits appeared in the sky above other planets and worlds, looking at the void from afar. Zichen's tracks were found, but he did not care. For now, this was his home ground. Except for the dead Tanshio, no one could stay here for long. After recovering his energy and refining the holy crystal, Zichen tried to travel through the void and leave this star field. When Zhu Kuei found out that Zichen had re-entered the void, his face was filled with anger. After thinking about it, he decided to go deeper. Chapter 34:21. The reason why this star field was so famous and no other forces came to destroy it was because there was a holy master here. In the depths of this world, there was a holy master's force. Julin was only a small force in this area. Zhu Kuei went straight in, so he could not see the holy master. He saw the Starfield steward. To Zhu Kuei, the Starfield steward was a real big shot, so it was not easy to see him. Zhu Kuei expressed his intention. The Star Domain steward sitting above frowned slightly as he looked down at Zhu Kuei. Zhu Kuei said in a deep voice, Zichun has mastered the most powerful thunder skill of the Thunder Tribe. If he escapes, it will be a great loss to our starfield. The starfield steward said, "So you want me to close the starfield gate and seal Zichun in this starfield?" Jukue said, "I beg you, sir. I hope you don't miss this opportunity." The starfield steward said, "Do you know that Zichun is from the Sacred Thunder region? Is he a core disciple of the Sacred Thunder region?" Jukue nodded and said, "I know, but there are many core disciples in the Sacred Thunder region. It's not like they haven't died before. Moreover, this time, he came to us to cause trouble. Even if we kill him, it's just self-defense. Closing the starfield gate is not a small matter. Sir, don't worry. As long as Zichun can't escape, I will show you a top thunder skill." The starfield steward smiled and said, "Take my token and tell the people at the starfield gate that the teleportation formation at the starfield gate needs to be repaired and closed." Jukue's face revealed a hint of joy. He took the token and quickly left. The starfield steward watched Jukue leave and did not speak for a long time. "Zichun, the starfield gate has been closed. You can't escape. Leave the void quickly, and you may have a chance to live. Hand over your thunder skill, and the Fire Spirit Organization will spare your life. If you don't come up, you will die in the void." Hearing the voices from the planets, Zichun stopped moving forward. There was something strange about this void. If one wanted to leave, they would have to step into the teleportation array. But now that the teleportation array was closed, it was clearly impossible to leave. As for entering a planet, that was even more impossible. Ever since Zichun displayed the lightning controlling technique, his enemies were no longer 2-star or 3-star existences. 4-star, 5-star, and perhaps some even stronger experts were paying attention to him. The only result of going ashore was death. Zichun's spiritual sense swept through the spirit ring. He still had a lot of resources from the last time. If he refined all of them, it should be enough for him to break through to the 3-star realm. As for whether he would be able to leave after breaking through to 3-star, Zichun was still unsure. Right now, the only thing he could do was to break through to 3-star. Within the void, the giant hand of energy would appear from time to time. As more and more people warned and threatened him, Zichun became aware of the anomaly of this void. Above the void, which he could not see through, was actually a holy venerate weapon. It sealed off this starfield, making the void incomparably dangerous. During this period, Zichun also learned that there were many forces here, and Julin was only one of them. This was the most dangerous seclusion that Zichun had started since he started cultivating. Not only did he have to stay away from the planet, but he also had to constantly be on guard against the giant hand of energy that could appear at any time. He did not dare to be careless. In this situation where his entire body and mind were on guard, Zichun's improvement was extremely fast. Whether it was his physical body or his energy, it was the same. Zichun's world was officially named the Tianwu world, and it was open to the public. Jolina was discussing cooperation with other forces, but it was not going well. Zichun had not returned for a long time, and there were rumors from the outside world, which made the development of the world very difficult. Among them, the people from the nearby Ganhai Sanctuary would always come here to cause trouble. The teleportation array also had problems from time to time, and needed to be repaired and repaired. "My lord, the teleportation array cannot be used again." A confidant came to the hall. Jolina was dealing with some matters. Hearing this, she raised her head, and a cold light flashed in her eyes. "Ganhai Sanctuary again." The confidant said, "My lord, Ganhai Sanctuary is obviously targeting us, and there have been some rumors in private recently that Lord Zichun has met with an accident." Jolina waved her hand and said, "It's just rumors. No need to pay attention to them." The confidant said, "I also know that Lord Zichun will be fine, but Ganhai Sanctuary is always targeting us, and the GRA family who cooperates with us." Jolina decisively interrupted the confidant. Cooperation is a win-win situation. The GRA family's status in the Sacred Thunder region is not low. If we can't even deal with a mere Ganhai Sanctuary, how can we cooperate with the GRA family? You go out, I will think of a way to deal with this matter. The confidant left, and Jolina muttered, "I originally thought that I could hold on for a while, but it seems that I have to contact her in advance." "Jolina, through the people of the GRA family, sent a message to Lei Lan, who was cultivating in the Thunder Room in the core city. This was Zichen's instruction before he left. After Lei Lan received the message, she immediately rushed to the Tianwu world. The transmission array, which often had problems, was miraculously repaired with Lei Lan's arrival. After that, Lei Lan stayed in the Tianwu world. With a core disciple personally overseeing it, a lot of trouble was naturally avoided. This wave of targeting was finally over. In the void, Zichen was still refining the Saint crystals, piece by piece. At the top, energy vibrated, and a large energy hand descended from the sky. Zichen, who was sitting cross-legged, still had his eyes closed, as if he didn't notice the arrival of the large energy hand. Just as the large energy hand was about to reach him, lightning appeared around his body. 2 lightning balls flew out and exploded with a loud boom, forming a terrifying tremor force. The speed of the large energy hand was blocked. In the next moment, Zichen disappeared. When the energy dissipated, Zichen was sitting cross-legged a few hundred feet away, still refining the Saint crystals without opening his eyes. This was the 10th year he had stayed in the void. In the past 10 years, countless forces had used all kinds of threats and temptations to come and go, but in the end, they had completely given up on useless threats. And Zichen had also become familiar with this void, and he was even more familiar with the large energy hand. Now, even with his eyes closed, he could avoid the large energy hand. In the past 10 years, Zichen had continuously refined resources, and he had made great progress, and he was very close to the 3-star level. Another month passed, and Zichen, who had refined the last piece of Saint Crystal, released a powerful aura around him. Chapter 34:22. Feeling the change in his aura, Zichen let out a long sigh. This time, he had really used up all the resources he had on him. Now, he only had materials left. Some were from Julin's treasure vault, and some were from killing other holy spirits. Other than materials, there was nothing else. Since he had broken through, the seal should have been lifted. Zichen planned to leave. However, just as he was about to move, he saw a figure flashing in the sky above an abandoned planet. Even though 10 years had passed, someone still hadn't forgotten about him and was still watching him. Zichen did not need to think about it to know who was being monitored. The Julin force. Before he decided to leave, Zichen still had a question to answer, so he had to go to Julin. Zichen made a beeline for the ruined planet and very quickly found the figure that had disappeared in a flash. He was only an ascending spirit tier cultivator, so Zichen did not kill him. He merely knocked him out, and during that time, he found the token that belonged to Giant Forest. Zichen took out a mask to hide his aura from his spirit ring and put it on his face. This was one of his spoils of war. Then, he set off toward Julin. When he killed Insi, Zichen already felt that something was wrong. For example, Insi had risked his life to escape the Holy Thunder region and even fought against the Holy Thunder clan to get the Holy Thunder crystal. Yet, he had put it in the treasure vault instead of refining it. Also, the other party seemed to have known about his appearance and deliberately set up a trap. Insi was dead, but Zichen believed that there must be someone in Julin who knew the reason for this. After teleporting to that familiar planet again and again, Zichen released his spiritual thoughts. Within the range of his spiritual thoughts, he found 4 4-star holy spirits and 1 5-star holy spirit. After identifying a target, Zichen's figure flashed and disappeared. The next moment, he appeared in front of a 4-star holy spirit. When the other party saw Zichen, he was obviously shocked. "Don't be impulsive. I just have some questions for you. I have no intention of killing you." Zichen looked at the 4-star holy spirit and said indifferently, "Brat, you've finally come out after hiding for 10 years. The 4-star holy spirit, Taku, looked at Zichen with obvious excitement in his eyes. The holy spirit power around him began to surge. Zichen shook his head. This guy was too impulsive. In a flash, Zichen disappeared. Taku's expression instantly changed. Wong. A blade light swept past Taku's side. Taku's eyes widened, and his body froze. Zichen looked at the weak soul in front of him and asked again, "Tell me, what is your true relationship with the Thunder Clan?" Taku's soul grinned. "Brat, you're dead." With a bang, the soul collapsed. Zichen's expression changed slightly. An ear-piercing sound suddenly came from the outside world. Zichen put away Taku's body, left the room, and looked at the sky. A light shield suddenly appeared and shrouded the city. In the city, shouts rose and fell, and holy spirits flew into the sky. Zichen knew that his tracks were completely exposed, and a trace of anger flashed across his face. Since that was the case, then he would start a massacre. Within the range of his spiritual sense, holy spirits appeared one after another. These holy spirits were quickly locked onto by Zichen. In the next moment, the Holy Spirit flying knife appeared and swept past the forehead of these holy spirits. Encountering these low-level or same-level holy spirits, Zichen's Holy Thunder Sword controlling technique could easily slaughter them. Just as the Holy Spirit's flying dagger finished off the enemy, Zichen dashed towards the second 4-star Holy Spirit. The other ascending spirit realms did not know what was happening. Why did the city's protective array that had not been used for a long time suddenly activate? A powerful Holy Spirit flew into the sky. However, these Holy Spirits had just flown into the sky when they quickly fell to the ground, and their auras disappeared. Dead. Why did these Holy Spirits die all of a sudden? As far as the eye could see, one Holy Spirit after another died without any warning. The Holy Spirit flying knife was so fast that those ordinary ascending spirit realms could not detect it at all. Zichen came in front of the second 4-star Holy Spirit. This was a familiar enemy who had chased after him before. When the two sides met, they did not say anything and only fought. After 3 breaths, the enemy died under the knife. Zichen's slightly pale face quickly returned to normal, and then he charged toward the next 4-star Holy Spirit. It was not difficult for Zichen to kill a 4-star Holy Spirit with a 3-star. After several years of self-refining, the demonic knife was no longer surging with demonic chi. Instead, there was some thunder power on it. This was the opportunity given by the Tree of Thunder, which allowed the demonic knife to exert the power of the Thunder clan to a greater extent. After 10 years of refining, the effect was very obvious. The third 4-star Holy Spirit died under Zichen's demonic knife. The fourth 4-star Holy Spirit was Tanshio. Zichen looked at him and said coldly, "You're really not dead." The response to Zichen was a deafening lion's roar. Tanshio stared at Zichen with resentment. After the fist intent turned into a lion, it flew forward. Zichen's eyes lit up. The Eye of Destruction. 2 rays of light flew forward and sank into the lion. The lion slowed down, and the combined fist intent showed signs of collapsing. Buzz. Zichen unsheathed the demonic knife in his hand. This was an all-out attack. The knife light approached, and the lion was split into 2. The fist intent's energy dissipated, and Tanshio's figure appeared. There was a bloody mark on his body. This time, the mark directly ran through his entire body. He stared at Zichen, his eyes wide open. He could not believe that when they met again, his all-out attack could not even block one move. His consciousness dissipated, and Zichen took away the spoils. "Boy, you're courting death." Zhu Kuei's voice sounded from afar. Everything happened too quickly, so fast that it was completely beyond Zhu Kuei's expectations. By the time he arrived, the battle was already over. The 4-star divine spirits were all killed. Zichen looked up at Zhu Kuei, murderous intent surging in his eyes. "Time to die. You're courting death." The 5-star Zhu Kuei slapped down with his palm. The sky shook, and this palm covered the sky. Zichen leaped into the air. 2 thunder balls surrounded his body, and in the next moment, they sank into the demonic knife. The demonic knife was unsheathed, drawing an arc in the air. The palm was split into 2, but the power of the arc did not diminish. It swept toward Zhu Kuei. Zhu Kuei stretched out his fist and punched down. There was a loud boom. The blade light shattered, and Zhu Kuei's body flew backward. Zichen's figure flashed, and he appeared in front of Zhu Kuei. "You're courting death," Zhu Kuei shouted. A big black axe appeared in his hand, and he slashed toward the side. There was a clanging sound. Zichen and Zhu Kuei both retreated. Zichen, who had retreated, disappeared again. He used the 9 flashes of holy thunder. He kept trying to get closer to Zhu Kuei, and at the same time, he slashed down with the demonic knife. The clanging sound resounded throughout the trading area. Many ascending spirit realm cultivators in the distance looked at the battle in the air in horror. The scattered waves touched the protective array, causing ripples, and then disappeared. Boy, go to hell. The 5-star Zhu Kuei actually could not take down Zichun. This made him feel ashamed. With a roar, the giant axe in his hand released countless streaks of black chi. Chapter 34-23. The giant black axe above his head fell with a powerful aura. This was the full force of Zhu Kuei's attack. The terrifying aura fell on Zichun, affecting his speed. The pressure came from all directions and fell on him. Zichun opened his eyes, and light appeared. It was the Eye of Destruction. In terms of resisting pressure, Zichun was very experienced in the past 10 years. With a buzz, the energy around him trembled. Together with the Eye of Destruction, Zichun disappeared. The giant axe's attack missed. Zichun flashed to Zhu Kuei's side and unsheathed his demonic saber. Zhu Kuei was a 5-star divine spirit, so his reaction was very fast. He blocked the attack with his giant axe. With a clang, Zichun retreated. Outside the sealed area, the other Spirit Ascension Realm cultivators were looking at the battle in the sky with shock on their faces. A 3-star divine spirit was actually on par with a 5-star divine spirit. How was this possible? Moreover, it seemed that the 3-star divine spirit was the one initiating the attack. Is this the Holy Thunder Clan's 9 flashes of Holy Thunder? As expected of one of the top speed cultivators in the Saint Spirit realm, even in front of a 5-star divine spirit, he is not at a disadvantage. The top technique of the Holy Thunder Clan. Whoever masters it will be invincible among those of the same level. Amidst the exclamations of the crowd, Zichun attacked again and again. However, these attacks were all blocked by Zhu Kuei. Although he had the absolute advantage in strength, Zhu Kuei was not happy at all. This was because he realized that Zichun's speed was getting faster and faster during the battle. Almost every time they exchanged blows, there would be a clear difference in speed. This made Zhu Kuei feel a lot of pressure, and he frowned. Don't tell me I'm going to die here? He thought to himself. He had a bad feeling, and at the same time, he mobilized the powerful energy in his body. Boom! The void shook, and countless holy lights flew out of his body. The giant axe trembled, and another powerful attack appeared. Zichun looked at this powerful attack, and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He took a deep breath and muttered, "It's about time." The giant axe fell, and endless pressure swept over. This pressure was similar to the pressure in the void. Zichun's eyes flashed as he activated the Eye of Destruction. At the same time, lightning circulated around his body and he disappeared. Just as he disappeared, Zichun activated 3 of the 9 flashes of Holy Lightning. He had just comprehended the 3rd flash. After all, he had the foundation of rapid cultivation, so it was not difficult for him to comprehend the 3rd flash. He stood in front of Zhu Kuei and unsheathed his demonic blade. His strongest attack, 2 condensed holy power thunderballs sank into the demonic blade. This sudden turn of events caused Zhu Kuei's expression to change drastically. Zichun's speed became even faster, and he had no time to attack. Therefore, at this critical juncture, he chose to defend. The light of the Holy Spirit circulated on the surface of his body, forming a powerful defense. The Eye of Destruction reappeared. The flow of light stopped for a moment. At this moment, the demonic blade closed in. With a puff, blood splattered everywhere as Zhu Kuei was sent flying backwards. His eyes were filled with fear. Zichun sheathed his blade and followed up with the 3rd flash of Holy Lightning. As he moved forward, he clenched his fist and punched. Holy Lightning, explode. This was the technique after the advancement of Thunderburst. It combined Zichun's strongest physical strength with Abdomen's lightning power. With a loud bang, the thunderbolt that exploded completely engulfed Zhu Kuei's body. The light circulating around Zhu Kuei's body shattered in an instant. His eyes were filled with shock. He did not expect his opponent to be so powerful. Right at this moment, there was a flash of lightning. The Holy Spirit flying dagger, which had been waiting for a long time, sank into Zhu Kuei's mind. The powerful force went straight into Zhu Kuei's soul and destroyed it. Zhu Kuei's aura was rapidly dissipating. He stared at Zichun as if he wanted to say something. Buzz. Zichun's second attack arrived. It was still at full strength as it swept past Zhu Kuei's body. Zhu Kuei was split into two. One attack, one punch, one Holy Spirit flying dagger, and finally another attack. With the help of the third flash of Holy Lightning and the Eye of Destruction, Zichun used 4 attacks to kill an enemy 2 levels higher. Looking at the dead Zhu Kuei, the pale-faced Zichun heaved a sigh of relief. The continuous battle had consumed a lot of his energy. Of course, the effect was also very good. Zichun quickly swallowed an elixir and put away the spoils of war. He turned around and looked at his surroundings. The entire sealed space had become completely silent. He had destroyed the powerhouses of Julin's faction just like that. Zichun did not leave immediately. Instead, he turned around and walked toward the original treasure trove. But after walking for 100 feet, he suddenly stopped and frowned slightly. He did not know why, but he suddenly felt a sense of danger in his heart. Boom! A building in the distance exploded. In the billowing smoke and dust, a giant bird appeared from the ground and soared into the sky. The giant bird was more than 200 feet in size. It had a sharp beak and its body was covered with countless fine scales. The moment he saw the giant bird, Zichun exclaimed, "Julin!" This faction was called Julin. There was a giant bird engraved on their identity token, and the leader's name was Julin. He did not think much of it before, but after seeing the giant bird, he finally understood. The one who had died earlier was not Julin. This giant bird was. People of the Lightning Clan, how dare you? Julin soared into the sky and flapped his wings. Like a storm, many of the buildings below were destroyed. Zichun looked at this scene in shock. Julin's aura was much stronger than Zhu Kuei's. At this moment, Zichun was not a match for Julin even if he was not exhausted, let alone the fact that he had used up a lot of energy. Without hesitation, Zichun's body disappeared. He was ready to escape. You want to leave? Julin's eyes stared coldly in a certain direction. A blazing flame suddenly appeared and blocked Zichun's path. The 3 flashes of holy thunder, which had suppressed Zhu Kuei previously, was useless in front of Julin. At the same time, a strong force rushed out of the flame and landed on Zichun, sending him flying. Zichun, who was sent flying, moved his body in midair and displayed the 3 flashes to the extreme. His body seemed to split into 3, appearing in 3 different directions. Then, he disappeared again, and his real body appeared a few hundred feet away. Just as he appeared, the 3 afterimages Zichun left behind were torn apart by the strong force. Julin's strength was beyond imagination. Die! Julin opened his mouth and spat out a large flame. Zichun's Eye of Destruction appeared, and he attacked with all his strength. The arc of the blade pierced through the air and landed on the flame. The effect of the Eye of Destruction was almost negligible. It only distorted the flame and drowned the arc of the blade. With a bang, the arc of the blade exploded. Zichun coughed up blood and flew backward. He looked up at Julin in the sky, his eyes full of fear. The giant forest swooped down, as if it was carrying a tornado with it. Many buildings were torn apart. Its eyes were filled with savagery. Chapter 34-24. The appearance of Julin was completely out of Zichun's expectations. Now that he was facing a life and death crisis and had nowhere to run, he could only choose to risk his life. The lightning manipulation technique was Zichun's greatest reliance and one of his greatest trump cards. He did not hesitate to use it. Ever since he learned the lightning manipulation technique, this technique had never disappointed him. Seal up, seal down. Zichun's eyes were fixed on Julin. His goal was not to hurt his enemy, but to kill him. His belief was firm. As if sensing his intention, the energy in his body was quickly draining away. The merged power in abdomen disappeared in the blink of an eye. The 2-star saint energy in his body was also disappearing quickly. Zichun, who was originally full of vitality, became weak in an instant. His body became very thin, as if his flesh and blood had been swallowed up. He was only skin and bones. His eyes were deep in his eye sockets, and there was no strength in his body. He looked like a walking skeleton. It was a terrifying sight. Seal down. Boom. A thunderous roar came from the sky. The sealed area was illuminated by lightning. Heaven and earth were pale white. Everyone was temporarily blinded. The strong lightning made them unable to see anything. They could only hear the rolling thunder and the screams in the thunder. Those were Julin's screams. The glaring lightning glow gradually scattered, and the miserable screams also slowly faded away. Zichen, who was like a skeleton, stared at the sky. In the air, Julin's huge body was emitting black smoke as it fell to the ground. Its huge body fell in front of Zichen. The ground began to shake, and a huge crater appeared. Smoke and dust flew everywhere. Julin, who was so arrogant before, was now a corpse. Looking at Julin's scales that were still intact, Zichen nodded in satisfaction. This was not a loss. The crisis from Julin was resolved. However, in Zichen's heart, he was more thankful. If it were not for the fact that he had the body of a 2-star saint to provide him with energy, the thunder manipulation technique, which was close to a life-changing technique, would have taken his life first. He walked forward, like a skeleton walking in the world. During this time, he swallowed several low-quality pills in succession, allowing his strength to return a step further. He put away Julin's body, then glanced at the ascending spirit tier cultivators in the distance who were almost petrified. Only then did he turn around and walk towards the door of the treasure vault. He's already exhausted. Let's kill him. A voice suddenly came from the quiet crowd. Even if they were at the ascending spirit tier, they had seen many storms and waves. When many people saw Zichen's state, they guessed that he had already exhausted his energy to the limit. Under such circumstances, there was still an extremely high possibility that these ascending spirit tiers could kill a divine spirit if they joined forces. That's right. His chi and blood are already exhausted. Everyone, quickly attack. Someone shouted again. However, there were many people shouting, but no one was making a move. Many people were just watching. Zichen did not care about those voices at all. At this moment, a ray of light appeared in the distance, heading straight for Zichen. It was a 1-star divine spirit. He had been suppressing his cultivation level, worried that Zichen would kill him, so he hid in the distance. This time, he felt that his chance had come. He held a long sword tightly in his hand. The quality of this sword was not high, and it was only a ascending spirit tier weapon. It was obvious that even if he was a divine spirit, he did not have much resources. He stabbed forward, wanting to kill Zichen with a sneak attack. Facing this attack, Zichen did not dodge, as if he did not notice. Seeing that the 1-star divine spirit was about to succeed, a look of excitement flashed in his eyes. If he could really kill his opponent, then he would gain a lot this time. Unexpectedly, at this moment, a bolt of lightning suddenly appeared, taking advantage of the divine spirit's unpreparedness and piercing through his mind. Only then did Zichen turn around, looking at his opponent with a mocking expression. Although he had expended a lot of energy and indeed did not have the strength to fight again, the divine spirit flying dagger could attack the enemy on its own. Killing a mere 1-star divine spirit was nothing. The ascending spirit tiers who had been shouting loudly and urging the others to attack were all dumbfounded when they saw that divine spirit die. A 1-star divine spirit had been killed in an instant. If it had been them, it would have been a massacre. However, in a battle of slaughter, the advantage of numbers was of no use. Zichen put away the 1-star divine spirit's corpse, turned around, and walked toward the treasury. He was not fast, and he did not seem to be in a hurry. During this time, many people's expressions changed, but no one dared to try. When he arrived at the door of the treasury, Zichen used the Eye of Destruction to easily break through the restrictions, and then entered the treasury. After the restrictions behind him closed, Zichen could not hold it in anymore, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. Then, he sat down cross-legged, not paying any attention to the treasures in the treasury. This time, he had achieved a great victory, but he had also paid a great price. He had lost at least half of his life. After stabilizing his breath, Zichen released his spiritual thoughts again and focused on searching for healing pills in the treasury. At this moment, only these things could save his life. He had looted this place once before, but he did not know if it was because of overconfidence, but Julin's forces did not move the other things away. However, Zichen only managed to find some ordinary pills after a round of searching. He didn't find a single one of those high-quality healing pills that were meant for holy spirits. Without these pills, it would take a long time for Zichen, who had lost half of his life, to recover. During this time, danger would definitely come again. Suddenly, Zichen thought of a possibility. He immediately used his spiritual thoughts to probe Julin's corpse and began to search the surface of the corpse. After a while, a cloth bag appeared in Zichen's hand. This was a rare space bag, and there was a lot of space inside. There were indeed many things in this space bag, and among them were the healing pills that Zichen urgently needed, and the quality of these pills was not low. Waves of saint power swirled within the pill. It was very pure and very rich. There were only 3 of these pills, and Zichen did not hesitate to swallow one. As soon as the pill entered his stomach, it immediately turned into a surge of vitality and automatically repaired the damage to his body. Zichen did not know that this was a recovery elixir unique to the Saint Spirit realm. The elixir that Zichen had just swallowed had 4 lines of light on it, which meant that it was a grade 4 elixir. Such a high-quality pill was prepared for divine spirits of 4-star and above. Zichen was only a 3-star, so it was a waste to swallow a 4-star divine spirit pill to recover. Zichen didn't know this. He only knew that the quality of this pill was really good. He had originally planned on swallowing another one, but he didn't expect that just one pill would allow him to recover his energy in an extremely short period of time. Sensing the rapid recovery of his injuries and his rejuvenated qi and blood, Zichen was very happy. This had saved him the time to deliberately recover. Therefore, Zichen began to collect the items in the treasury. Everything that glowed or did not glow was collected by Zichen. This was a treasury, and useless items would not be placed here. Of course, the most valuable items would not be here either. For example, the high-quality divine spirit pill. After collecting all the items, Zichen's injuries had completely healed, and his missing flesh had also been replenished. This speed was completely beyond his expectations. Then, he quickly walked out of the treasury. Chapter 34:25. Originally, all the holy spirits on this planet had died, and the remaining ones were all in the ascending spirit realm. Moreover, this place was sealed by a special array, so no one could leave. But while he was recuperating, the seal had already disappeared. There were people all around, completely surrounding the treasure vault and sealing the space around it. These people were all holy spirits. Zichen looked at the holy spirits in shock, and then saw the greed and killing intent in their eyes. Of course, there was also a little shock. After all, Zichen was only one person, and a 3-star holy spirit at that. How could he kill all the masters of the Julin clan? Even the powerful leader Julin was killed. One had to know that Julin's combat power was very strong. Even if he encountered a 6-star holy spirit, he could still fight. What do you mean by this? Zichen looked at the holy spirits who were eyeing him covetously. Brat, are you pretending to be stupid? Don't you know what we mean? One of the holy spirits laughed sarcastically. The holy spirits realm was very high. Zichen released his spiritual thoughts, but he couldn't sense the holy spirit's realm through his aura. Obviously, even if the holy spirit wasn't a 6-star master, he was definitely a master at the level of Julin. Zichen's eyes continued to move, and he saw one holy spirit after another. He couldn't sense the aura of these holy spirits. Obviously, during the time he was in the treasure vault, many masters from different forces rushed over as soon as they heard the news. Now, even if Zichen fought with all his might, he could only defeat one opponent at most. You want the spoils? I'll give them to you, Zichen said again. The Holy Spirit said coldly, we want the spoils, but that's not our main purpose. Hand over the Thunder skills and the Thunder Clan battle weapon you have. Zichen said, I can give you the spoils, but do you dare to take the Thunder skills? Do you think you can get a share of the Holy Thunder Clan's things? The Holy Spirit was stunned at first, but then he laughed loudly. There was laughter all around. Kid, I thought you were a vicious and merciless person since you were able to kill Julin, but I didn't expect you to be so childish. Let me tell you, although the Holy Thunder region is powerful, not everyone in the Holy Spirit world gives face to the Holy Thunder clan. Murderous intent flickered in the other party's eyes. The name of the Holy Thunder clan isn't always useful. Now, hand it over quickly, or you will die a horrible death. At this moment, a lot of pressure fell on Zichun. Zichun's body couldn't move at all. The pressure from these experts was too terrifying, even surpassing that of the void outside. In the face of such pressure, Zichun found it extremely difficult to speak even if he wanted to. Cold sweat dripped from his face. This time, Zichun truly felt the threat of death. He didn't even have the chance to make a move. These people could kill him just by using pressure alone. One after another, powerful auras fell on Zichun. Through these auras, Zichun not only sensed many 6-star holy spirits, but also 7-star holy spirits. A sense of helplessness rose in his heart, and his eyes were full of helplessness. Kid, just as the sacred spirit was about to say something, the pressure on Zichun's body suddenly disappeared before he could finish his sentence. The group of holy spirits was stunned, and then they all looked up at the sky. They saw a person standing there. To be precise, it was a little girl. She wasn't very old, and she was standing in the air, looking down at the group of holy spirits indifferently. Zichun looked up and saw the little girl. The moment he saw the other party's appearance, his expression changed because he recognized the other party. It was the little girl that he had scared away when he first entered the giant forest treasure trove. At that time, the little girl had left behind a talisman in a panic. 10 years ago, that talisman had saved his life. Who are you? All the holy spirits looked at the little girl, and their faces were full of vigilance. She could dissolve the pressure of everyone's auras in an instant, so she was obviously not weak. The little girl ignored everyone and looked down at Zichun. She praised him. Well done. Her voice was very young, but at this moment, she was pretending to be an elder. It was a little strange. Who exactly are you? The Holy Spirit who was ignored was angry. He took a step forward, and his powerful aura went straight for the little girl. The little girl waved her hand gently, and a strong wind blew away the Holy Spirit's aura. In the next moment, the 6-star Holy Spirit was sent flying in the air. With just a wave of her hand, she sent a 6-star Holy Spirit flying. How powerful was this little girl? The group of Holy Spirits' faces changed, and some of them subconsciously stepped back. Zichun was also very shocked. He didn't expect this little girl to be so powerful. Yiling, you broke the rules. Suddenly, a cold voice sounded from outside the planet. Yiling looked up at the voice, and a trace of disdain flashed in the corner of her mouth. Rules? You have rules in this star zone? Humph, this isn't your sacred thunder tribe. You can't do whatever you want here. The voice that came from nowhere was clearly dissatisfied. Yiling was still disdainful. Why? Are you going to fight me? Then let me see if the weapon you used to seal the void has reached the venerable level. As soon as she said that, the holy spirits who had retreated were shocked again. This time, when they looked at the little girl, not only was there no anger, but there was also great respect. Greetings, Holy Senior. The group of holy spirits bowed respectfully. Holy Senior was an existence that surpassed the holy spirits. This level of powerhouse belonged to the top of the Holy Spirit realm, and they could easily destroy them with a snap of their fingers. When they found out the little girl's identity, they also guessed the identity of the person who was talking to her. That person was the master of this holy realm. Zichun was also shocked. He did not expect this little girl to have such a powerful background. The Holy Senior of the Holy Thunder clan. But why did she look like a child? Didn't they say that holy seniors were all patriarchs? Suddenly, Zichun thought of another patriarch. Yimai. The other party was a child, but her identity was frighteningly high. Yimai. Yiling. Could she be the spiritual ancestor of the 2 spiritual ancestors? Zichun widened his eyes in disbelief. The Holy Thunder Realm is so impressive. Why? Do you really think you are invincible? The voice of the Holy Senior rang out again. I don't know if we are invincible or not. I only know that you are bullying us with numbers, and you are shamelessly suppressing us with a higher cultivation level. Yiling said, Fearless, I won't bully you. I have 3-star holy spirits on my side. You can send 3-star holy spirits or 4-star holy spirits. As long as they can kill my people, you can do it. I won't interfere in the middle. Humph. The holy senior named Fearless snorted coldly. As a holy senior, of course he knew what happened in this star realm. He clearly saw Zichen's combat strength. Not to mention those of the same level, even 4-star holy spirits would not be able to suppress him. One-on-one was even more impossible. I will take it as giving Lady face. Fearless snorted again. Yiling smiled and said, that's good. He has some connections with Lady. After saying that, Yiling came to Zichen's side and said, let's go. Your mission is complete. Zichen shook his head slightly. Please wait a moment, Holy Senior. Chapter 34-26. When Zichen was killing the 4-star Holy Spirits, many Holy Spirits below 4-star were killed by the Holy Spirit Flying Dagger. Those were the spoils of war, and Zichen did not have the time to pick them up. Of course, Zichen did not want his spoils to be taken away by others. With the Holy Venerate around, he was not afraid of the crowd. The Holy Spirits were all taken aback by this loud shout, which was clearly a show of strength and intimidation. Seeing that the Holy Spirits did not respond, Zichen said again, if you don't hand them over, none of you will leave here alive today. All of you will die. The meaning behind his words was even more obvious, and all of the Holy Spirit's expressions turned extremely ugly upon hearing this. If the Holy Venerate was not here, they could have killed this guy with one slap. Why? Are you not going to hand them over? Zichen said angrily, don't you feel ashamed? How dare you steal the spoils of a 3-star Holy Spirit? This is the Holy Venerate's territory. As the Holy Venerate's subordinates, don't you feel ashamed of your actions? You are tarnishing the Holy Venerate's reputation so brazenly. What use do the Holy Venerate have for you? The crowd was speechless. How did this have anything to do with the Holy Venerate? However, the Holy Venerate's consciousness was here. They could clearly feel a chill coming from the outside world. None of them said anything and took out their spoils. Zichen took them away without hesitation. He would not come to this place a second time, so there was no need for him to leave his spoils to these ill-intentioned people. The Patriarch of Yiling watched silently. She did not say anything, but she did not object either. After Zichen collected all of the spoils of war, he walked over to Yiling with a smile on his face. Greetings, Patriarch. Zichen was not embarrassed at all when he bowed to a little girl. Instead, he greeted her warmly. Yiling waved her hand and said, let's go. The next moment, the two of them disappeared. Trash. At the same time, the fearless Holy Venerate left a cold voice and his consciousness also left. The mighty Julin Holy Spirit sect was destroyed by a 3-star Holy Spirit sect. Ancestor, what's going on? After leaving the star field, Zichen finally asked the question in his heart. Julin's forces are related to a certain family in the Holy Thunder region, said Yiling's great ancestor. Could it be that someone from the Thunder clan wants to kill me? Zichen asked. There's no direct evidence yet. I'll get someone to investigate it carefully when I get back. Yiling said, your performance this time was very good. Through this matter, you can also warn the other forces that when we, the Holy Thunder clan, turn a blind eye, we are showing the greatest benevolence and forgiveness to this world. Once we become serious, the 3 stars can destroy a force. When Zichen heard this, his eyes immediately lit up. If that's the case, may I ask if there will be additional rewards when we return? Yiling glanced at Zichen and said, a heavenly sovereign has protected you for 10 years. Is this not enough of a reward? Zichen was stunned. It seemed that Yiling's great ancestor was already here when he came to this star field. The escape talisman last time was also deliberately left behind by the great ancestor. However, in the past 10 years, Zichen's life was not satisfactory. Other than fighting and killing, he also had to be vigilant of the energy hand in the void at all times. Of course, Zichen did not try to bargain with the great ancestor, because the great ancestor would definitely say that this was the greatest training for him. There was no need to think about additional rewards. He could only admit that he was unlucky. Fortunately, this time, he gained a lot. Not only did he break through, but his physical body also became stronger. As long as he went back and cultivated in seclusion for a while, he believed that his physical body would be able to break through again and reach the 3-star Holy Force realm. At the same time, there were many spoils of war that had not been counted. After returning to the Holy Thunder region, Yiling and Ziqian separated. Looking at the spirit ancestor who had disappeared, Ziqian fell into deep thought. Who was it that wanted to harm him this time? It had been a long time since he had returned to the world to take a look. Ziqian planned to go there first. He could go back with just a thought. However, after some consideration, Ziqian decided to teleport over from the trading place. At the same time, he wanted to see how his world had developed over the past 10 years. After teleporting over and over again, Ziqian arrived at the Ganhai sacred region. After that, he walked toward the teleportation portal. There were many people waiting to be teleported here. He did not know if they were going to his world. Ziqian, who was walking forward, quickly thought of a problem. He did not know what his world was called, and how should he teleport? He shook his head and planned to leave directly. Suddenly, a conversation attracted his attention. I want to go to the Tianwu world. Please open the teleportation portal. The teleportation portal is broken. It was broken a while ago. Didn't you say that it would be fixed today? Keep waiting. I wonder when it will be fixed. Why are you talking so much nonsense? If I ask you to wait, then wait. If you can't wait, fly over from the void yourself. Ziqian, who was preparing to leave, walked over. If he was not wrong, that Tianwu world should be his world. However, why was it not allowed to be teleported? Ziqian walked closer, looked at the depressed ascending spirit realm cultivator, and asked, You want to go to the Tianwu world? The other party looked at Ziqian warily. Ziqian smiled and said, Don't misunderstand. I also plan to go there, but unfortunately, I can't teleport. You come here often. Do you know when this teleportation portal was broken? The ascending spirit realm cultivator smiled bitterly and said, It started to break 10 years ago. It was just that it was repaired several times during this period. Who knew that it would break again now? Recently, it has been broken for 3 months. Ziqian asked doubtfully, How can a teleportation portal be broken so easily? The ascending spirit realm cultivator glanced at the guard beside him and hesitated to speak. You two, scram to the side. Don't get in the way here. The guard from before pointed at Ziqian and said. Ziqian glanced at the guard, then looked at the teleportation portal in front of him and said, This teleportation portal is broken. Is it your idea, or your family's idea? The ascending spirit realm cultivator beside him had a look of fear on his face. He tugged at the corner of Ziqian's clothes and said, Little brother, don't cause trouble. This is the Ganhai sanctuary. We'll just wait a few more days. Ziqian said, If it's really broken, it's fine to wait a few days. However, this teleportation portal is clearly not broken. What did you say? A cold, killing intent appeared in the eyes of the guard from before. Ziqian pointed at the teleportation portal in front of them and said, I said, This teleportation portal is not broken at all. Why do we have to wait? You're courting death. The guard stepped forward and released the aura of an intermediate ascending spirit realm cultivator, suppressing Ziqian. Ziqian said, I have some understanding of teleportation portals. I'm very sure that it's in good condition. The ascending spirit realm cultivator beside him kept winking at Ziqian, but Ziqian was unmoved. Suddenly, a long spear flew over from the side and directly entered the teleportation portal. The patterns on the teleportation portal lit up a few times and were destroyed. Chapter 34:27. The long spear was inserted into the teleportation array, completely destroying it. A middle-aged man walked over and looked at Ziqian coldly. Is it broken now? Ziqian nodded and said, Yes. The middle-aged man sneered and said, At least you have good eyesight. Men, capture these 2 guys who destroyed the teleportation array. The spirit ascension realm cultivator beside Ziqian's face changed drastically, and he hurriedly begged for mercy in horror. Sir, it has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with me. The middle-aged man snorted and said, They actually dared to fight in the Ganhai sanctuary and damage the teleportation array, causing the future Tianwu world to be unable to use the teleportation array for at least 10 years. Their crimes are punishable by death. When the other guards heard this, they all ran over, all of them filled with killing intent. Zichen laughed when he heard this. Who gave you the courage to invert black and white? Invert black and white? The Spirit Ascension Realm cultivator raised his eyebrows and said angrily, so many people saw it with their own eyes, and you actually said that I inverted black and white? Needless to say, the other guards' eyes were full of coldness. As for the other people around, after meeting the gaze of the Spirit Ascension Realm Guard Captain, they all nodded. The guard captain laughed. After so many years, there was finally a hothead. This matter could be solved once and for all. With a fool taking the blame, the teleportation array to the Tianwu world could be completely destroyed. He shouted, "How dare you destroy the teleportation array? Capture them!" A group of guards stepped forward. Zichen's expression was cold and indifferent as he said, "This is simply lawless." The guard captain mocked, "How is it lawless to punish the sinners who destroyed the teleportation array? We are punishing evil and eliminating evil." "Sir, I don't know him. This matter has nothing to do with me," the Spirit Ascension Realm cultivator shouted in horror. Through this matter, Zichun could see many problems. However, he obviously wouldn't lower himself to the same level as these people. After all, he was an existence who had even killed a 5-star Holy Spirit. He narrowed his eyes slightly, and an invisible pressure spread out. The guards who were coming forward instantly froze as if they were petrified. Such a scene caused their expressions to change drastically, and their eyes revealed horror. Holy Spirit. The captain's voice was trembling. Zichen said in a deep voice, "Gone high, get the hell out here." He couldn't possibly fuss over this matter with a mere ascending spirit tier cultivator, but he definitely wouldn't let this matter go just like that either. In that case, he could only look for the master of the Gone High sacred region. For these people to be so bold, they must have received Gone High's silent approval. Zichen's voice exploded like a clap of thunder. At this moment, the face of the captain of the guards from before, he was filled with fear. He knew that he had kicked an iron plate. He had provoked an existence that he should not have provoked. Not to mention him, even Lord Gone High would not dare to provoke such an existence. The Spirit Ascending Tier cultivator who had previously tried his best to distance himself from Zichun was now completely dumbfounded. "Gone High, get out here." Zichen's voice reverberated throughout the entire planet, reaching every corner of the planet. "Who dares to make a ruckus here?" A majestic voice was heard as the aura of a Holy Spirit spread toward them. A straight Holy Spirit light bridge extended from afar. Gone High stood on the Holy Spirit light bridge, looking extremely confident as he approached from afar. He wore a long robe and stood with his hands behind his back, looking down below. "Who's making a ruckus?" Zichen said, "You're Gone High." Gone High looked at Zichun, frowned slightly, and asked, "Who are you?" Zichun. Gone High's eyes flashed slightly, and then a smile immediately appeared on his face. He clasped his fists and said, "I've long known that a neighbor named Zichun came to Gone High Sanctuary, but I've never paid a visit. I didn't expect to see you here." Zichun ignored the other party's goodwill and said indifferently, "Forget about trying to worm your way into being friends with me. Now tell me, what do you have to say about this matter?" Zichen pointed at the teleportation array that was destroyed by the spear, and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. "If you don't give me a reasonable explanation, I'll still kill you even if you're a 5-star Holy Spirit." Being threatened by Zichun like this, a touch of anger flashed across Gone High's face. He snorted coldly and said, "What a big tone. You're indeed a core disciple of the Holy Thunder Clan. What, you think you can do whatever you want in the outer domain?" Zichun said coldly, "You can try if you don't believe me." A demonic blade appeared in his hand, and his eyes were filled with coldness. Gone High narrowed his eyes. "What, you want to fight me?" "No, I want to kill you." Zichen shook his head. When the voice disappeared, he had already arrived in front of Gone High. Gone High's pupils shrank and he shouted, "Zichun, how dare you?" Buzz. The demonic blade was unsheathed, and a blade arc flew forward. "You're courting death," Gone High shouted angrily, and a long spear appeared in his hand, which he thrust forward. With a loud bang, a terrifying shockwave spread out in all directions. Swoosh! Just as the shockwave spread out, Zichun quickly approached and slashed down for the second time. In addition to the power of thunder, this attack also contained 2-star saint power and the power of the demonic bone. This was Zichun's full strength, second only to the lightning controlling technique. At such a close distance, facing Zichun's attack, Ganhai's expression changed drastically. He immediately blocked with the long spear in his hand, and at the same time, lightning appeared around his body. That was his defense. Zichun's eyes lit up as he used the Eye of Destruction. With a loud bang, the long spear in Ganhai's hand was sent flying. At the same time, the blade continued forward and swept past the defensive light on the surface of Ganhai's body. Blood splattered in the air as Ganhai's body was thrown far away. A deep blade mark appeared on his chest, and saint blood gushed out. Zichun, you. Ganhai looked at Zichun in horror. His opponent was only a 3-star. Who would have thought that in just 2 exchanges, he would be injured? On the surface of his wound, there was residual power of thunder wriggling. His power couldn't be removed. As for the ascending spirit realm cultivators below, they were terrified. They also didn't expect the battle to be over so quickly. The core disciples were known as the strongest disciples of the Holy Thunder Clan. Now, it seemed that they lived up to their reputation. Zichun sheathed his blade and looked at Ganhai indifferently. I need an explanation for this. Ganhai's expression was extremely ugly. Buzz. Zichun drew his saber for the 3rd time. The saber light flew into the distance and landed on the tallest building in the area. With a boom, the building exploded, and screams could be heard. Zichun knew that it was Ganhai's property. As the building collapsed, Ganhai suffered a great loss. In the next moment, Zichun disappeared and returned to the Tianwu world. Compared to a few years ago, this world hadn't changed much. Obviously, not long after he left, the development of this world had encountered obstacles. Zichun stood in the sky above the Tianwu continent. After scanning the surroundings with his spiritual sense, he returned to the core tree city. Jolina. Zichun appeared outside Jolina's room. Jolina, who was frowning, looked up when she heard the voice. Her expression changed. Chapter 34:28. Seeing Zichun walk in, Jolina's eyes lit up and she called out happily, "My lord." After Zichun entered the room, he looked at the haggard Jolina and asked, "Have you been wronged?" "You know?" Jolina was a little surprised. She shook her head and said, "No, I knew that my lord would be fine." Zichun asked, "What about Lei Lan? Didn't I tell you to ask her for help?" After Lord Lei Lan found out about this, she personally took charge of the Tianwu world. But a few months later, the higher-ups sent her a mission, so she had no choice but to leave. Jolina poured Zichun a cup of water. Zichun took the cup and sat down. He said in surprise, "She didn't come back for a mission for 10 years?" Jolina sat opposite Zichun. "Lord Lei Lan knows about our situation. I believe that she will come here as soon as she comes back. But she hasn't come yet. She must have not returned from the mission. By the way, what was your mission? It actually took you 10 years to complete?" Zichun said, "I was set up and trapped in a place for 10 years. Jolina asked in surprise, who would be so bold as to set up a core disciple of the sacred thunder region? Zichun shook his head and said, "It's not good to jump to conclusions." Although he said so, Zichun felt that this matter was related to the 2 clans that had a grudge against him. But this matter was so important that even the spirit ancestor could not come to a conclusion. Zichun naturally had to be cautious. Zichun then asked about what had happened in the past 10 years. Jolina said, "Many clans intended to cooperate with us. Some of them are watching, and some have already left. When some negative news about you came, the number of people watching also decreased." Zichun asked, "What about the Jela clan?" Jolina said, "They are still cooperating with us. But because of the transmission array, progress is slow." Zichun nodded. He had nothing to say to the Jela family, and it was even more impossible for him to blame them. Although the other party had the power to solve the problem of the teleportation portal, and could even do so with a single word, the other party clearly had no obligation to help him. Both sides were just cooperating, and their relationship wasn't so good that they could help each other selflessly. This was a deal, but it was also a benefit. Zichun could tell the difference. Jolina smiled and said, "Now that you're back, I believe that all the problems will be solved." Zichun said, "I will ask Ganhai to give an explanation for this matter." Zichun was not worried about handing the world over to Jolina. She was very experienced. Just as he walked out of Jolina's room, the teleportation array in the Ganhai sanctuary had already been repaired. The first batch of people were teleported to the core city. The efficiency could be said to be extremely fast. Among them, there was a special team that went straight to the place where the manager was. "The law enforcement team is here. They want you to go over, sir." A moment later, Jolina came to look for Zichun. "Law enforcement team? What do they do?" Zichun asked in confusion. Jolina explained, "They are in charge of the order of the Holy Thunder Clan. They have great power in the Holy Thunder region." When Zichun heard this, he became more and more puzzled. Why did the law enforcement team come to look for him all of a sudden? However, since his world was going to develop in the periphery, he naturally had to abide by the rules here. So he decided to go and take a look. The law enforcement captain who came was actually a holy spirit, which surprised Zichun a little. "You are the master of the Tianwu world?" The law enforcement captain looked at Zichun. Zichun nodded and said, "This is my world." The law enforcement captain said, "Then that's right. Come with us." Zichun asked, "What's the matter?" "You will know when you get there." The other party's attitude couldn't be said to be good, but they didn't deliberately target him either. It was completely their usual personality. From this, one could see the status of the law enforcement team in the outer region. Zichun decided to go and take a look. He also needed an explanation regarding the matter of the Ganhai sacred region. He followed the law enforcement team and left. Along the way, the two sides didn't have much interaction. The members of the law enforcement team, even if they were in the spirit ascension realm, were all very arrogant. After teleporting again and again, they arrived at an unknown sacred region. The law enforcement team brought Zichun into a huge high-rise building. Those spirit ascension realm cultivators all stayed outside. The one-star Holy Spirit captain brought Zichun in. The first floor was a hall. It was spacious and huge, and the decorations were very luxurious. After Zichun entered, he saw that there were already several people here. Among them was Ganhai, who he had injured earlier. "Lord, Zichun has been brought here." The one-star Holy Spirit cupped his fists. This hall was like an interrogation hall. A middle-aged man sat at the top. He glanced at Zichun and said coldly, "Zichun, do you know your crime?" Zichun raised his head and looked at the other party. He raised his eyebrows slightly. "What crime?" The middle-aged man said in a deep voice, "You ignored the rules of the Holy Thunder region and secretly attacked Ganhai sacred region. Ganhai advised you, but you didn't listen. You actually injured him?" Zichun was slightly startled. He looked back at Ganhai and asked, "Is that so?" Ganhai ignored Zichun. Instead, he cupped his fists at the middle-aged man and said, "Lord is wise. This Zichun is really arrogant. At that time, I advised him to abide by the rules. I didn't expect him to directly launch a sneak attack. In addition, he deliberately damaged one of my properties, causing me to suffer heavy losses. I hope that Lord will seek justice for me." The middle-aged man said in a deep voice, "Zichun, do you have anything else to say?" Zichun said, "He blocked the transmission array to my world for 10 years. The middle-aged man snorted coldly and said, "Cut the crap. I just want to ask you, do you know your crime?" Zichun, who had encountered countless similar incidents along the way, quickly understood what the other party meant. It seemed that darkness was really everywhere. He was schemed against when he was on a mission in the core city. This matter hadn't been resolved yet, but he didn't expect that he would be attacked again in the outer region. No matter whether someone instigated this time or not, he had encountered the dark side. Reason? His countless experiences told him that it was useless. Zichun looked at the middle-aged man and said, "Fair and just?" The middle-aged man shouted, "How dare you? You attacked without permission, destroyed the building, and injured Ganhai. If I don't punish you, how can the Holy Thunder Clan be fair and just?" There was a touch of coldness in the hall. Many cold gazes fell on Zichun. Perceiving these malicious gazes, Zichun said indifferently, "It seems that you think this matter is handled properly." The middle-aged man said coldly, "Fair and just, of course it's proper." Zichun suddenly laughed. "This is interesting. I beat the core disciples like dogs in the core city, but I didn't expect to be bullied in the outer region." The middle-aged man raised his eyebrows slightly. Zichun said, "I don't know who instigated this, but let me give you a piece of advice. Don't invite trouble to yourself." The expressions of the people around immediately became ugly. The middle-aged man shouted coldly, "Are you threatening us?" "I'm reminding you out of kindness. As for whether you listen or not, it's up to you." Zichun looked back at Ganhai. "I don't know what relationship you have with this guy, but before you deem me guilty, you'd better help me solve the problem of the transmission array not being open for 10 years. Otherwise, I'm not done with you." With that, Zichun turned and walked outside. Before he left, Zichun took out an item and threw it behind him. "If this thing is useless in the Holy Thunder Clan, please throw it away for me." Chapter 3429. Zichun had already left the hall. When the middle-aged man saw the core token, his expression immediately changed and he looked at Ganhai. "Ganhai, what is the meaning of this?" The middle-aged man asked in a deep voice. He didn't know that Zichun was a core disciple. Ganhai smiled faintly and said, "Brother Wulu, don't be impatient. As long as we're in the right. So what if he's a core disciple or a core elder?" Wulu said, "Right? You stopped him from using the transmission array for 10 years. You call that right?" Ganhai smiled and said, "You don't need to care about this. Just punish him for attacking." Wulu looked to the side. There were still a few people standing there. They were all his colleagues, but their positions were lower than his. One of them said, "I didn't expect this Zichun to be a core disciple. However, he was indeed wrong in this matter. It has nothing to do with whether he's a core disciple or not. If we let him go just like that, our reputation will definitely be damaged." "That's right. Once this spreads, people will definitely think that our enforcement team is afraid of core disciples." Another person said, "Our enforcement team and their core disciples have always minded their own business. No matter how lawless they are in the core area, they can't come to the outer area." Wulu waved his hand and said, "Let me think about it first. As for Zichun's punishment, we'll discuss it later." Everyone nodded and left one after another. After everyone left, Wu Li's expression gradually darkened. "What do you think about this matter?" Wu Lu suddenly asked. "It's obvious that Ganhai has been instructed to target this core disciple." A voice came from the darkness. "They want to use my lord's position to punish the other party. And some people on your side have been bribed." Wu Lu asked again, "What do you think I should do?" "If you participate, you'll definitely offend Zichun. As for how much benefits you'll get, it's hard to say. We'll have to pay the price of targeting Zichun, a core disciple. I think that before that, you should investigate what kind of price you'll have to pay." Hearing the voice in the dark, Wu Lu nodded. To be able to sit in this position, he naturally knew about the Holy Thunder Clan. If one wanted to become a core disciple, not only did they need to have potential, they also needed the power behind them. He had no idea who Zichun was. How did such a person become a core disciple? Right now, it was obvious that the two factions were fighting. At this time, choosing a side randomly would be fine if they were right, but what if they were wrong? The consequences were simply unimaginable. After pondering for a moment, Wu Lu said in a deep voice, "Since that's the case, you should investigate first. Find out who this Zichun is. Why did he build a city in the periphery? Could it be that the core area can't accommodate him?" Yes. The voice in the dark disappeared. Zichun returned to his own world with an ugly expression on his face. If this matter had happened in a core city, he could have solved it through a battle. Whoever was against him, he would beat them up until they no longer dared to play any tricks. However, there were many rules in the outer regions, which made him feel restricted. He couldn't fight either. Not to mention wasting his energy, it wasn't very useful. In fact, Zichun also knew that there must be other forces behind Ganhai. Otherwise, how could Ganhai dare to go against him, a core disciple? At this moment, Jolina came to inform Zichun that the teleportation array had been activated normally. Yahung from the GRA clan wanted to see him. Zichen thought for a moment and said, "Tell Yaheng that I just came back from a mission and am tired. Ask him to come back later." At this moment, Zichen was vexed. Naturally, he wouldn't see anyone. Jolina nodded and left. Zichen wasn't in a hurry to return to the core city. He was thinking about who was targeting him. How should he resolve this situation? This was the first time he encountered something that couldn't be solved by force. After coming to the Holy Thunder region, he only offended two clans directly. One was the Hu clan and the other was the Xin clan. Which clan was behind the previous mission? And which force was behind Ganhai? Suddenly, Zichen thought of the bloodline ancestor. After all, he had beaten up the bloodline ancestor twice. Was it instructed by him? But if it was instructed by the bloodline ancestor, why did the spirit ancestor protect him for 10 years? And as the old ancestor of the Holy Thunder clan, how noble was his status? Why would he be so bored to deal with him? Suddenly, Zichen thought of a solution and his eyes lit up. Although he didn't know which clan was targeting him, it must be related to these two clans. Outside, he couldn't do anything due to the rules. But in the core city, he could do a lot of things. After thinking of a solution, Zichen decided to go to the core city immediately. Aren't you sabotaging? Then I'll let you see what sabotage is. If it's you who did it, then this is a lesson. Even if it's not you, it's a warning to others. Although he didn't have the core token, Zichen's identity was still there. It wasn't difficult to enter the core city. Then, Zichen went to find Grace. After seeing Zichen, she was very surprised. "You're finally back. It's been 10 years. If you didn't come back, I was really worried that something had happened to you." Zichen said, "I was lucky. I almost couldn't come back." Grace looked at Zichen in confusion. Zichen said, "I was schemed against and trapped in a place for 10 years. Grace's expression changed. Zichen said again, "I'm here to ask you for some information." "What information?" "Information about the core disciple quota of the Hu clan and the Xian clan. I want those who are below the 5th realm and currently live in the core city." "What do you want this information for?" Grace was more and more confused. "Although I don't know who is targeting me, it must be related to these two clans. I want them to pay a price. It can also serve as a warning to others." After all, Zichen's world needed to develop steadily. Therefore, he had to deal with this matter once and for all. If he suppressed those core disciples here until they couldn't raise their heads, it would be much easier for the outside world. At the very least, they wouldn't dare to attack his world. This wasn't difficult for Grace. After all, she was in charge of distributing resources and was very familiar with everyone. If Zichen could really bring some trouble to these two clans, it would be a good thing for the Grace clan. Soon, Zichen got the information and walked toward his first target. However, if he were to fight against Zichen, he really didn't have the confidence to win. Zichen curled his lips. "How can there be such a cowardly trash like you in the sacred Thunder region? Speaking of which, how did you become a core disciple? Could it be that your Hu clan's people secretly took the back door and squeezed out other potential core disciples who should have become core disciples?" Although this kind of operation was known to everyone, saying it out loud was very hurtful. Hule angrily rebuked without hesitation, "Don't talk nonsense here. This kind of lousy provocation is useless against me. Don't you want to fight? I'll accompany you to the end." Zichen said, "Then it's settled. If you win, the Thunder Room will be yours. If you lose, half of your resources will be given to me." Hule waved his hand and said, "No need. I only fight. I never bet with others." Boos came from all around. Zichen shook his head and said, "If that's the case, then I won't fight." "Ah." Hule was stunned. There was such a good thing? Zichen turned around and said, "I'll have to trouble friends to spread today's matter. A dignified core disciple of the Hu clan doesn't even dare to challenge." "Brother Zichen, don't worry. This matter will spread throughout the sacred Thunder region in less than half a day." A voice immediately came from afar. "That's right. This time, the Hu clan has lost so much face. It has damaged the reputation of our Holy Thunder clan and even lost the face of our core disciples. This matter should be known by the world and remembered." Another person said. The others were also very cooperative. They were all willing to make the Hu clan unhappy at this time. At the same time, they were establishing a preliminary relationship with Zichun. Good. I'll fight you, Hule said angrily. If you want to bet, then bet big. I'll take out all my resources. What else can you take out? Boos came from the crowd again. A dignified thunder room was enough for those resources. Chapter 34-31. As Zichun's voice fell, the core disciples all turned their heads and looked at a young man. At this moment, the other party's face was full of ridicule. But as everyone looked at him, the smile on his face froze. At this moment, he had a bad feeling in his heart. Zichun's gaze followed everyone's gaze and fell on the young man. You are Xianming? I challenge you to a 2-star fight against a 3-star. Xianming's face immediately turned cold. Why should I accept your challenge? In fact, at this moment, he had the urge to turn around and leave, but he stayed for the sake of his face. Zichun said, Are you afraid? Then I won't embarrass you. Now go to the outer region and tell the world that the Xian family is a coward. Xianming's eyes flashed with killing intent. Zichun, you are courting death. Zichun said coldly, Whether I am courting death or not, we will know in a battle. The others around were interested, so they deliberately ridiculed him again. Xianming clearly knew that this was a provocation, but he had to agree because the reputation of the family must be maintained and could not be trampled on by others. Therefore, Xianming, who had just given out the resources and hadn't refined them, lost them to Zichun just like that. After winning, Zichun looked at the third name and said, Is Huyi here? A 3-star holy spirit who was about to escape was quickly blocked by the crowd. When Huyi was blocked, a few people in the crowd left quietly, because many people had already seen that Zichun seemed to be deliberately targeting these two families, and the people on the list might be from those two families. As a result, Huyi also lost the resources. Immediately afterward, Zichun read the name of the fourth person, but the other party was obviously not there. Someone told him that he was there just now, but he ran away. Therefore, they were very enthusiastic to take Zichun to the room of the fourth person. However, no matter how Zichun targeted him, the person from the Xian family didn't respond at all. Obviously, this 3-star holy spirit was avoiding the battle, but it could also be said that he was in seclusion and couldn't hear the sound outside. Next was the 5th and 6th. It was still the same. Standing outside the 6th person's room, Zichun shook his head and said, This is really boring. I thought that the core disciples of aristocratic families were all people with backbone. I didn't expect that they were all rats. Sounds of agreement could be heard from all around. Everyone had witnessed Zichun's battle prowess. Despite fighting above his level, he still won with ease. Moreover, he had Saint Venerable Thunderous behind him. Compared to other family forces, Saint Venerable Thunderous was naturally stronger. Brother Zichun is right. The disciples of the Hu and Xian families are truly unable to withstand a single blow. They've really lost face for our sacred lightning clan. A young man walked over and cupped his fists. I'm Pei Wenyao from the Pei clan. I'm very excited to see Brother Zichun's prowess today. Why don't we go for a drink? The expressions of some of the core disciples in the crowd changed slightly when they saw Pei Wenyao. The Pei clan he was from was not weaker than the Hu and Xian families. They had a deep foundation and many experts. Pei Wenyao's reputation was also not small. While many people were shocked, they also felt incomparably angry. In this kind of situation where they were on good terms with Zichun, they should have expressed their attitude earlier. However, it wasn't too late now. Immediately, some people expressed their attitude and walked forward. These people were naturally not afraid of the Hu and Xian families, and they even had some conflicts with them. At this moment, they wanted to use this opportunity to get closer to Zichun. During this time, the words they said were naturally to suppress the two families. You're courting death. At this moment, a cold snort suddenly sounded, followed by a cold chill that swept over from not far away. Sensing this chill, everyone turned their heads and saw a person appear there. Xiancheng. Seeing that person, many people cried out. They didn't expect that person to be in the core city. Do you really think that you're invincible just because you defeated a few people? Xiancheng walked over, releasing a strong aura that brought a lot of pressure to the people. Zichun looked at Xiancheng, then took out the list and looked at it. His eyes immediately lit up. "You're on the list too. I was going to look for you in a few days, but I didn't expect you to take the initiative to come forward and be slapped in the face." After hearing Zichen's words, the others' expressions changed. Pei Wenyao, who spoke first, reminded him through voice transmission, "Brother Zichen, don't be careless. This Xiancheng is a 4-star divine spirit." A smile appeared on the corners of Zichen's mouth as he said, "Do you dare to fight with me? If you win, the Thunder Room is yours. If you lose, you have to give me a 4th-grade spiritual talisman." The 4th-grade spiritual talisman was also called the 4th-grade Holy Thunder Talisman. It was unique to the Thunder clan and could only be condensed by high-level divine spirits. It was extremely expensive. Last time, when Zichen fought with Hu Wei took out a 3rd-grade talisman when he was defeated. The price of the 2 talismans was not equal. The Thunder Room was definitely one of the top resources in the sacred Thunder territory. "Okay," Xiancheng agreed immediately, obviously thinking that he would definitely win. The crowd dispersed, and an independent battle space opened up. Zichen released the aura of a 2-star divine spirit. Exclamations came from the crowd. Was Zichen going to fight a 4-star divine spirit with a 2-star divine spirit? Chapter 34-32. Zichen's punch was like a huge wave that could topple mountains and overturn seas. Xiancheng, who felt the terrifying aura, began to mobilize the power of the 4-star sacred spirit around him. But unlike what everyone had imagined, he was not attacking but defending. Sacred lightning shield. Countless streams of sacred spirit power gathered in front of him and then turned into a solid shield. Countless lightning flashed on the shield, and the word lightning was engraved in the center. This was the defensive technique of the Holy Thunder clan, which Zichen had not mastered. His fist was blocked by the sacred shield. With a boom, the fist light exploded. Dazzling light bloomed, and the terrifying lightning drowned the sacred shield. Deafening booms sounded continuously. Under the impact of the terrifying energy, Xiancheng began to retreat. Cracks appeared on the sacred shield in front of him. After retreating more than 10 feet, the sacred shield exploded with a boom. The powerful force once again forced Xiancheng to retreat. At this moment, he noticed something strange from the corner of his eye. His figure swayed, leaving an afterimage where he was. With a swoosh, the afterimage was split into 2. Zichen, who wanted to use the back of his saber to stun his opponent, missed. At this moment, Zichen felt a dangerous gust of wind coming from behind him and immediately used the 9 flash of Holy Thunder. Zichen disappeared in an instant. A bolt of lightning flashed past Zichen's back. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, the 9 flash of Holy Thunder collided with the 9 flash of Holy Thunder. The 2-star Zichen was fighting the 4-star Xiancheng. This battle was not like the previous one, which ended quickly. Despite the difference of 2 realms, the battle strength of the 2 was actually evenly matched. Everyone was shocked. With the battle strength that Zichen displayed, he was definitely one of the best among the core disciples. He was vaguely comparable to those terrifying existences. Fortunately, Brother Zichen is only at the 2-star realm. If he was at the 3-star realm, Xiancheng would probably cry for his parents. Outside the battle space, Pei Wenyao said with a smile. The sarcasm in his words could not be more obvious. A burst of laughter came from the crowd. "That's not true. Realms are always the most fundamental existence. There aren't so many hypothetical existences. Zichen is only at the 2-star realm, which only proves that his strength is insufficient." Someone else in the crowd spoke up. It was obvious that they were on good terms with Xiancheng. Pei Wenyao smiled faintly and said, "At this point, I can only say so. Otherwise, wouldn't it be embarrassing?" Quite a few people laughed out loud in tandem. The person who spoke for Xiancheng also didn't want to be outdone. Usually, only people who don't have any strength will make assumptions. While they were arguing outside, Xiancheng couldn't take down Zichen after a long time. He couldn't help but show anger on his face. Holy Thunder Sword. He formed a hand seal and pointed at the sky. The void distorted as a lightning sword that seemed to have come from beyond the heavens descended from the heavens, bringing with it a tyrannical aura. This was the famous and powerful technique of the Holy Thunder Clan. Zichun, who felt the pressure, immediately unsheathed the demonic saber that had never been unsheathed. The saber light rose against the sky and collided with the lightning sword. With a boom, it exploded. The moment the lightning sword was destroyed, Xin Cheng's hand seal changed again. The sky shook, and another palm fell from the sky. The demonic saber that had just been sheathed was unsheathed again. In the space of the battlefield, the roaring sounds continued. The two of them fought back and forth, engaged in a fierce battle. If the difference in realms between the two wasn't taken into account, then this battle could be said to be brilliant beyond compare. Zichun displayed powerful combat strength, while Xiancheng displayed the standard of a 4-star core disciple. All kinds of Thunder Clan battle techniques emerged one after another, and their comprehension was extremely profound. Just from the number of battle techniques, Xiancheng's comprehension was much greater than that of Zichun's. However, if realms were taken into account in this brilliant battle, it would be awkward no matter how one looked at it. A 4-star core disciple of the Holy Thunder Clan actually couldn't defeat a 2-star Zichun. It seems that they have to wait for both sides to exhaust their strength. Someone looked at this evenly matched battle and made such a conclusion. Exhaust their strength? Don't joke. Xiancheng is a 4-star. In terms of strength, he's several times stronger than Zichun. Even if Zichun exhausts his strength twice, he can forget about exhausting Xiancheng's strength. Yang Yong, who had been speaking up for Xiancheng, said again. Although Yang Yong's words were unpleasant, one had to admit that it was common sense. Under normal circumstances, a 2-star's strength was far from a 4-star's. Therefore, no one refuted him. At this moment, Zichun suddenly said, "All right, it's time to end it." As his voice fell, he rushed forward. His whole body glowed as he mobilized his strongest strength. Xiancheng also shouted angrily and gathered all his strength for the final attack. Yang Yong looked at Zichun and said disdainfully, "Mobilizing your full strength like this will only make you lose faster. This kind of idiotic fighting style is only suitable for bullying those of a lower level." "You speak as if Xiancheng didn't bully anyone." Pei Wenyao smiled disdainfully. "Besides, it's not certain who will win." As they spoke, the two of them made contact. Zichun's eyes flashed. Eye of destruction. Xiancheng's attack was disorderly for a moment, as if there was a flaw. He unsheathed his demonic saber and rushed forward. Swoosh. Xiancheng's attack dissipated instantly. The saber light landed on his body, and his defense distorted several times before collapsing. The next moment, he coughed up blood and flew backward. The unforeseen event that occurred in an instant caused everyone to be stunned. They didn't understand exactly what was going on. Looking at Xiancheng again, there was an extremely deep saber mark on his body. He was severely injured. How is this possible? Yang Yong, who had been looking down on Zichun and even deliberately mocking Zichun, was stunned. Zichun stood there, looked at Xiancheng, and said indifferently, "You lost." Xiancheng stood up, his face ashen. His gaze moved away from Zichun and looked at the outside world. He saw a lot of mockery, and anger immediately burned in his heart. "No, I didn't lose," he shouted loudly, his eyes filled with resentment. Zichun frowned slightly. "You can't afford to lose?" "I didn't lose. How can you say that I lost?" Xiancheng, who was bleeding, took a step forward. His body swayed, and he almost fell. "You said you didn't lose? Are you saying you'll only lose if you die?" Zichun's voice turned cold. Whoosh! A talisman appeared in Xiancheng's hand. It was the Holy Thunder Talisman, for lines of light flickered on it, constantly creating ripples. "It's a 4th-grade Holy Thunder Talisman." Seeing this scene, cries of alarm could be heard from the crowd. When Zichun saw the 4th-grade Holy Thunder Talisman, a cold, murderous intent flashed in his eyes. "What are you trying to do? It's not too late to say that I lost if you can block its attack," Xiancheng said coldly. A 4th-grade Holy Thunder Talisman could only be condensed by a 6-star Sacred Spirit. The attack contained in it was life-threatening to a 4-star Sacred Spirit. Once Xiancheng activated the Holy Thunder Talisman, the 2-star Zichun would definitely die. Reprimands came from the crowd. Zichun said coldly, Since you can't afford to lose, don't blame me for being rude. I don't want the same thing to happen a third time. Zichun took a step forward, and the originally weak aura on his body became stronger once again. Chapter 34-33. Zichun, who had unleashed the full power of 3 stars, truly had the intention to kill. Boundless killing intent surged wildly towards the injured Xiancheng. Xiancheng couldn't help but shudder when he felt the killing intent. He, who had lost his mind earlier, gradually regained his senses. Outside the battlefield, cries of surprise could be heard. The 2-star Zichun had actually become a 3-star. Everyone knew that Zichun hadn't been in the Holy Thunder Clan for long. Many people hadn't even broken through to the 1-star realm, but Zichun had actually gone from 1-star to 3-star. Zichun could heavily injure Xiancheng with just 2-star power. Once he used 3-star power, Xiancheng would definitely die. Enough. Suddenly, a cold voice came from the sky. The Grand Commander appeared. He looked at Xiancheng and said coldly, "Don't you think it's embarrassing enough?" Xiancheng lowered his head. He didn't dare to activate the 4th-grade Holy Thunder Talisman in his hand. The surging aura around Zichun retracted as he walked towards Xiancheng. When he was in front of Xiancheng, Zichun stretched out his hand and said indifferently, "Hand it over." Xiancheng's face was gloomy, but he didn't dare to flare up. Zichun snatched the 4th-grade Holy Thunder Talisman and said, "Becoming a core disciple is important, but what's more important is one's character." The Hu clan and Xian clan are so despicable even in a battle in front of everyone. How dark are your actions behind the scenes? No wonder your 2 clans have trash who don't dare to accept the challenge. So what if you obtained the core disciple position through shady means? So what if you have countless resources? Trash will always be trash. Zichun turned around and looked at the crowd. "I'll have to trouble you all to help me pass the message. In the coming days, I will frequently spar with the Xian and Hu clans in a friendly manner. Based on the principle of not doing things more than 3 times, I guarantee that I will end your lives before you have any evil intentions." Great. Cheers immediately came from the crowd. Pei Wenyao looked at Yang Yong and said, "You didn't like Zichun earlier. Why don't you go challenge him now?" Yang Yong coldly snorted, turned around, and left. He was really afraid that Zichun would pester him. Not only would he lose face, but his family's reputation would also be damaged. Take this incident as an example. The Hu and Xian clans would become laughingstocks for a long time to come. After the battle ended, Zichun left the battlefield. He didn't express any gratitude for the appearance of the Grand Commander, because the other party was here to save Xiancheng, not him. If they really wanted to stop him, they would have appeared a long time ago, and not after he revealed his 3-star strength. Zichun walked out of the battlefield and said to the crowd, "Today's harvest is not small. Thank you for your support. If you have time, let's go for a drink?" "That's exactly what I was thinking." Pei Wenyao smiled and walked over. "Brother Zichun showed us a very exciting battle today. How can we let you spend money? Let me be the host." Following that, many people walked forward. Grace stood behind the crowd and looked at Zichun, who was like the moon surrounded by stars. "My lord, I didn't get any information." A voice suddenly sounded in Wu Li's room. How is that possible? Wu Lu was stunned and felt that it was very unbelievable. With his intelligence network, he couldn't get any information about Zichun. He stood up and looked behind him. A black-robed man appeared and said respectfully, "Information about Zichun seems to have been deliberately blocked. No one knows how he joined the core forces, and why Gon Hai dared to target a core disciple, and who ordered him to do so." Wu Li's expression became serious. "If we use special channels, we should be able to find some clues." The black-robed man nodded and said, "The matter is urgent. Without asking for your permission, I used those channels and found out something unbelievable." "What is it?" Wu Lu asked. "When Zichun went to Luo City, he took a holy venerate token." "What?" Hearing the black-robed man's words, Wu Li's expression changed drastically. Holy venerate? Holy venerate tokens were people who held real power in the Sacred Thunder region, and they were absolute powerhouses. In the Sacred Thunder region, there were only a few holy venerates. How did Zichun get his holy venerate token? Wu Lu looked at the core token in his hand again and felt that it was extremely troublesome. What do you think? Wulu looked at the black-robed man. The black-robed man said, My lord, don't you know the core disciples? I think it's necessary to find out about this through them. Core disciples should know each other very well. You think it's necessary? Whether it's necessary or not, we'll know when my lord brings back the news. In the outer region, in a private room of a restaurant, Pei Wenyao looked at Wu Lu and asked curiously, It's rare for you to come looking for me. What's the matter? Wu Lu said, I want to find out about someone from you. I thought you were still in the core city and would take some time to come back. Pei Wenyao smiled and said, What a coincidence. I have something to do. Tell me, who are you looking for? Wu Lu asked, Do you know that there's a core disciple called Zichen? Zichen. Pei Wenyao was slightly stunned. Why are you looking for him? You know him? Wu Lu was very surprised. After all, there were many core disciples in the Holy Thunder clan. It was impossible for everyone to know him. Wu Lu smiled and said, Now in the core city, there aren't many who don't know Zichen. I came back this time because Zichen made a big commotion in the core city. What commotion? Wu Lu asked. He blocked all the core disciples below 4-star from the Hu and Xin clans in their rooms. They didn't dare to come out at all. Speaking of this matter, Pei Wenyao could not hide the smile on his face. These days, the two families had really become a big joke. Who was he exactly? How dare he offend two big clans at the same time? Wu Li's expression became solemn. No one knows. He was brought back by the Holy Venerate Lei Di. He got the core disciple spot without going through any assessment. Wu Li's expression changed drastically. The title of the Holy Venerate was enough to make him lose his mind. Can you tell me more about Zichen? Wu Li's voice was trembling. Very quickly, he found out about Zichen from Pei Wenyao, causing his expression to turn incomparably ugly. These things weren't considered secrets to the core disciples. However, to the people from the outer region, it was a secret. Gon Hai dared to go against Zichen. Other than the fact that he had the support of other forces, the bigger reason was that he didn't know anything about Zichen. Pei Wenyao left. Wu Lu stood up. His expression was still ugly, and there was still fear in his heart. He had wasted a favor, but in exchange for information about Zichen, indirectly saving his life. It was really worth it. Chapter 34-34. Zichen played with the core disciple token in his hand and looked at Wu Lu. The token emitted a faint lightning glow. This token represented the supreme status of the Holy Thunder clan. Wu Lu stood there with his head lowered. He didn't dare to look at Zichen. At this moment, he didn't know how many times he had scolded Gon Hai in his heart. This guy was courting death. Not only did he offend Zichen, he even wanted to drag him down with him. Luckily, he restrained himself last time and didn't cause a disaster. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. The matter has been investigated. Gon Hai disregarded the rules and forcefully obstructed the development of the Tianwu world. He has already violated the rules of the Holy Thunder clan. Wu Li's head was still lowered. He said apologetically, I misunderstood you last time. I hope you can forgive me and not be calculative with me. Zichen didn't know why Wu Li's attitude had changed. However, he really couldn't do anything about Wu Lu. He was a core disciple and had great authority. However, he couldn't interfere with the management of the outer region. If Wu Lu didn't cooperate and wanted to punish him, he couldn't do anything. Of course, if Zichen went all out, as a core disciple, he wouldn't be afraid of anyone. However, if that happened, it would obviously be disadvantageous to the development of his world. Zichen nodded and said, Since the truth has been found out, I'll have to trouble you to do things impartially. Of course, of course. Wu Lu nodded repeatedly. Although he was a 5-star Holy Spirit and had a high status in this region, if he didn't have other opportunities, 5-star was the limit. As for Zichen, he still had great potential in the future. Pei Wenyao didn't brush him off. That favor was worth it. Pei Wenyao told him almost everything he knew about Zichen. In the end, Pei Wenyao said, Everyone is discussing that Zichen might become an extreme core disciple in the future. For most people in the Holy Thunder clan, the extreme core disciple was an unfamiliar term. They only knew that the core disciple had great authority and a noble status. However, Wu Lu knew very well what the extreme core disciple meant. In the entire Holy Thunder region, there were almost no core disciples in the outer region. As their realm increased, they would gradually change the world. As for the extreme core, there was not a single one. It was also because of Pei Wenyao's last words that Wu Lu finally made up his mind. Wu Li's respect was out of Ziqin's expectations. This would save him a lot of time and avoid a lot of trouble. After a simple conversation, Wu Lu took his leave. Since he was not going to deal with Ziqin, he had to deal with the teleportation array. This matter wasn't a big deal, but it wasn't a small one either. If things were handled according to the rules, then it would be easy to resolve. Ganhai was guilty and had to be punished. But now, Ganhai had the help of other forces. Although Wu Lu didn't know which force it was definitely a powerful force that could at least contend with Ziqin. What should we do now? Wu Lu frowned and pondered. The voice in the dark suddenly said, Ganhai is naturally at fault here, but Ziqin has also violated the rules. In a situation where both sides are at fault, there is no need to completely offend one of them. I think we should call Ganhai over and give him some appropriate punishment and compensation. That way, he won't be hurt too badly. Wu Lu nodded. In fact, he had planned to do so. When he went to see Ziqin today, the other party seemed to only want an explanation. His words didn't seem to have any intention of killing Ganhai. Moreover, he had investigated and found that Ganhai Sanctuary lost at least 10 years of income from that slash. Someone, go call Ganhai over. Wu Lu made up his mind. Wu Lu, you are really an idiot. Ganhai looked at Wu Lu and said disdainfully, since you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me for not playing with you. You can forget about staying in this position from now on. Ganhai turned and walked out confidently. Do you really think you are so great? Do you think you are someone important? Now, you just have to wait patiently for your appointment to be removed. Ganhai, wait. The people who followed Ganhai and glanced at Wu Lu and turned to chase after Ganhai. If Wu Lu was removed from his position, they would need to appoint another person. They felt that this was an opportunity. Wu Lu looked at the people who left and remained silent. After returning to his own world, Ganhai was still very proud. With a powerful backer behind him, he really didn't care about a mere Wu Lu. The reason why he went to look for him previously was to give Wu Lu a chance. He didn't expect that idiot to not cherish it. Ganhai, who was feeling proud in his room, didn't wait for the order to remove Wu Lu from his position. He waited for another piece of news. It was a crime. It was about him. It came from the core region. Chapter 34-35. What did you say? Ganhai's eyes were fixed on the person who had come. Are you King mistaken? I'm just a star area lord in the outer region. How could I kill a core disciple? The man from the core area said coldly, you colluded with the Julin force in the Wuju star area to kill core disciple Ziqin. The evidence is conclusive. How can you deny it? Men, arrest him. Immediately, a member of the core law enforcement team stepped forward and grabbed Ganhai. There must be a mistake. There must be a mistake. I don't know Ziqin. How could I kill him? Ganhai screamed in horror. You don't know him. How could you deliberately stop Ziqin's world from developing for 10 years? The man's voice was cold. Ganhai wanted to say something, but he found that his voice was suppressed. He couldn't say a word. No, I'm innocent. I'm innocent. Ganhai's face immediately became ferocious. A powerful aura began to surge. He obviously couldn't be caught. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to explain himself. Ganhai was a 5-star divine spirit. He was extremely powerful. However, the moment his aura moved slightly, an even more powerful force appeared from the side and forcefully invaded Ganhai's body. Sensing this force, Ganhai's face showed a touch of horror. The bodyguard beside him, who looked like a subordinate, was actually a 6-star divine spirit. The terrified Ganhai's face showed despair. The news that Ganhai was taken away by the core area quickly spread in the Saint region. At the same time, his crimes were also spread. Many people were in an uproar because he plotted to kill a core disciple. Wu Lu, who received the news, let out a sigh. It seems that he was pushed out by those people as a scapegoat. At the same time, Wu Lu was very glad that he had used a favor to obtain all the information about Ziqin. Otherwise, he would have suffered a great loss this time. As for those people who were bought by Gone High, they were all on tenterhooks. They were afraid that someone would come to cause trouble. After all, they didn't have access to any information from the outside world, and they were utterly unaware of the relationship between Zichun and those powers. Yahong still didn't see Zichun. He only communicated with Jolina. Jolina could clearly feel the change in Yaheng's attitude. Moreover, over the past few days, more and more forces had come. It was obvious that they wanted to build a good relationship with him. They were even willing to lose some benefits. Zichun had remained in the outer realm and had never returned to the core area. Naturally, the teleportation array had been working well for the past few days, and it hadn't broken down again. He already knew what had happened in the Gone High sacred region. It seemed that this was the final result of the spirit ancestors' investigation. Although he knew that Gone High was just a scapegoat, Zichun still felt that this was an explanation. He had even indirectly given him a huge gift. The teleportation array lit up, causing ripples to spread out. Grace walked out of the teleportation array. "Why are you here?" Seeing Grace standing outside the door, Zichun was a little surprised. Grace said, "Regarding your matter, the others deliberately avoided it, so I naturally came." "Oh, what's the matter?" Zichun gestured for Grace to sit first. "The results of the investigation are out. They want you to go back and see if you're satisfied with the results." Grace said, "Of course, it's just a process." Zichun nodded and said, "Now?" "Yes." On the same day, the two returned to the core city. Grace led him into an interrogation hall. When they entered, there were still traces of blood on the ground that hadn't dried yet. Powerful fluctuations surged in the blood. That was sacred blood. Although it was useless to Zichun, to other low-level existences, this sacred blood was a supreme treasure. In fact, in some low-level worlds, the sacred blood might even undergo some sort of mutation, some sort of unimaginable change. Zichun, who was slightly absent-minded, suddenly thought of something. His eyes couldn't help but light up. This was a good thing for the development of the world. "This is the evidence we've obtained this time. Please take a look." A person in charge walked over with a booklet in his hand. On it was recorded the evidence of Gone High and Insi's collusion. Zichun only took a rough look. How could a layman like him see the inside door? Moreover, he knew very well that Gone High was just a scapegoat. Zichun handed the booklet to the person in charge and said, "What do you think of this matter?" The person in charge said, "Due to the great impact this matter has had on you, after discussion, we've decided to leave Gone High sanctuary to you after executing him. All of Gone High's properties will be yours." Zichun said, "After a person dies, can the world be left behind?" The person in charge nodded. "It's possible through a secret method. The matter was settled like this." Zichun didn't refuse. In fact, when he came over, he had already guessed that the other party would make such an arrangement. Gone High's death was his own fault. Zichun wouldn't let him go just because he was a scapegoat. Moreover, in this matter, he didn't have the final say. Obviously, this was arranged by the spirit ancestor. He had to find the murderer, so the murderer had appeared. After returning to the Tianwu world, Zichun began to think about the development of the world. Previously, the idea that flashed through his mind was to sell things like sacred blood. If a city wanted to prosper, the most important thing wasn't the strong, but the gathering of low-level people. The more people there were, the more lively and prosperous it would be. Sacred blood was useless to him, but to low-level existences, it was really good stuff. Zichun was considering whether he should catch a few holy-level beasts and let them bleed here to attract people. 2 days later, Wu Lu of the law enforcement team invited Zichun to Gone High Sanctuary to watch the execution of Gone High, but Zichun refused. Colluding with other forces to kill a core disciple was a big deal in the Sacred Thunder region. At the same time, it was also a big crime. Naturally, it couldn't be handled quietly. On the same day, Gone High was executed and punished under the eyes of everyone. Zichun stayed in his room, thinking about how to strengthen the Tianwu world. Jolina, who went to visit, walked into the room. Zichun looked up at her. Jolina's face didn't look too good. "What happened?" Zichun asked. Jolina hesitated for a moment and said, "Before Gone High died, he cursed and said that he was wronged. How could he target a core disciple? He said that someone had taken a fancy to his star field and set up a trap to target him. Zichun smiled when he heard this. What happened in the end? Jolina said, the law enforcement team read out his crimes on the spot and then killed Gone High. Zichun said, in that case, Gone High's words left some bad impressions? More than some? A lot. Now, people outside are talking about whether Sir is really so cruel. Some people have even started to evacuate. Jolina said, according to preliminary estimates, Gone High Sanctuary's popularity will lose at least 20% because of these words. Whether it was Jolina or Zichun, they were extremely shrewd people. Naturally, they could see the intention of this. There were still some people in the dark who didn't want him to smoothly obtain Gone High Sanctuary. Now that nearly 20% of the popularity has been lost, there will inevitably be some people who will make some small moves, and the popularity will continue to decline. In the end, it would be very good if half of the popularity, or 40%, was left. Maybe this prosperous sanctuary will be completely ruined in a short time. This is another war. There is no smoke, no life and death, but it is more cruel and involves more interests. But so far, Zichun still doesn't know who the enemy is. I'm not good at this matter. Now I give you all the authority to deal with this matter. Zichun looked at Jolina and said, do everything you can to maintain the popularity first? Or, do you have any plans? Jolina said, I want to contact some of the forces in Gone High Sanctuary first. As long as they don't make any big moves and don't make any small moves, the loss of popularity is only temporary. Zichun nodded and said, okay, it's all up to you. Zichun walked out. Where is Sir going? Chapter 34-36. Jolina didn't quite understand what Zichun meant. Why was he talking about ideals with some people with bad intentions? Was he trying to influence them? Jolina dismissed the thought as soon as it appeared. She knew Zichun quite well. She could tell from Zichun's tone that someone was going to be in trouble. Zichun returned to the core city. He took out the name list and started to search house by house. His voice was very loud, and he purposely emitted sound waves. He almost disrupted the peace in the residential area. However, many core disciples didn't care. They could watch a good show and watch their opponents suffer. They were totally overjoyed. He searched all the way. Those 3-star holy spirits didn't even dare to open their doors. No matter how much Zichun mocked them, they all pretended to be in seclusion. After looking at the name list, Zichun was speechless. Looks like I can only look for 4-star holy spirits. However, he had already defeated a 4-star holy spirit last time. Everyone knew how powerful he was, but still, no one responded to him. Udeli, you're a 4-star holy spirit, but you don't dare to accept the challenge of a 3-star holy spirit. You're really a coward. How about this? I'll fight you with a 2-star holy spirit. Zichun stood outside Udeli's room. His voice spread out. Some core disciples in the distance cooperated well and started to mock him. Seeing that there was no response from the room, Zichun said, you're really good at pretending. How about this? You can go back to your Hu clan and say that I, Zichun, will challenge all your 3-star and 4-star holy spirits. As long as you have the guts, you can come. If you lose, you'll get whatever you want. At the same time, Zichun also turned to look at the room in the distance. He said, and the one with the surname Xian. This will work on your Xian clan too. This was considered a great humiliation. However, no one responded. There were many cheering voices in the distance, but no one dared to express a different opinion. They were worried that Zichun would come back and look for them. They weren't the only ones who would be humiliated. Their clans would be humiliated too. Enough. How can you be like this? Suddenly, a cold voice came from afar. Zichun turned his head and said coldly, where is the beast making such a ruckus? A man walked forward, his eyes flashing with killing intent. You're courting death. The other core disciples retreated one after another. Their eyes were filled with fear as they looked at the newcomer. Zichun looked at him. Who do you think you are? A tyrannical aura surged out from the other party and directly suppressed Zichun. A mocking smile appeared on Zichun's face. A 5-star holy spirit, do you dare to suppress your cultivation level to 3-star to fight me? If I don't torture you to death, I won't be Zichun. Of course, 4-star is fine too. According to Zichen's current strength, fighting a 4-star core disciple was already his limit. As for a 5-star core disciple, it was impossible for him to defeat one. Of course, after using the lightning controlling technique, it was hard to say. The 5-star Holy Spirit's expression did not look too good. He was not confident enough to fight Zichun while suppressing his cultivation level. However, it was obviously impossible for him to admit defeat just like that. He mocked. When did having a lower cultivation level become something to show off? Your cultivation level is low. You shouldn't blame others for having a higher cultivation level. Instead, you should ask yourself why your cultivation level is so low. Zichun didn't get angry when he heard that. Instead, he pondered seriously for a moment before nodding his head and saying, "What you said makes sense. I completely agree. Now, can you tell me which family you belong to? I want to share this principle with your family members as well." The other people in the distance could not help but roar with laughter. Their voices were very harsh. A cold, killing intent flashed in the 5-star Holy Spirit's eyes. "You're courting death." Zichun was still smiling as he said, "When I reach the 4-star level, will you still dare to say these words? It's true that having a higher cultivation level is a good thing. However, being a coward like you is a mistake in itself." Zichun continued, "I won't bully your family members. Anyone below 4-star is fine. Even if they're in the ascending spirit realm, I can suppress my cultivation level and fight them. Do you want to try?" Seeing the other party's changing expression, Zichen's indifferent voice suddenly became cold. "If you don't have the guts, then scram. Or should I say, wait until I reach 4-star before I kill you. Brat, it's easy to break. You'd better restrain yourself so you don't embarrass yourself." The other party snorted and turned to leave. "What, you want to run away? Can I trouble you all to tell me who this guy is and which family he's from?" Zichen's voice immediately rang out. "I want to talk to his family about what's easy to break. He's Reynold from the Renault family." Reynold, who was leaving, staggered when he heard this voice. At this moment, he was already feeling a little regretful. If he had known this would happen, he would not have stood up. This time, there was no need for Zichun to ask for a list of names. Many enthusiastic core disciples pointed out where several members of the Renault family lived. After several battles, Zichen's mood was much better. He had also gained a lot. Only then did he leave the core city and return to the Tianwu world. After returning, Jolina had already begun to take over the Ganhai sanctuary. She was very busy, and Zichun could not give any good advice. Therefore, on the same day, he returned to the core city and entered the Thunder Room to begin cultivating. Strength was the foundation of everything. This was a principle that he understood. As for Jolina, there should not be any major problems with the Jella family's help. Next, Zichen began to refine the resources he had won and went into seclusion to cultivate. Jolina, who was discussing with many families, found that the process was not smooth. These families actually had plans to migrate. Jolina was very clear about the price of migration. Why did everyone insist on leaving? Her gaze swept across the group of elders. Jolina said, "Everyone is so decisive in migrating. It can't really be because of those rumors, right?" The various forces did not dare to neglect this gathering. Those who came were all people with real power in their families. At this moment, after hearing Jolina's words, they all fell silent. Yahong stood at the side like Jolina's follower. He did not say a word during this time. Jolina continued, "The Ganhai Holy Spirit was a 5-star expert. To the Holy Thunder Clan, he was a true mainstay. To be honest, I also feel very sorry for his death." All the family leaders looked at Jolina. Clearly, they did not understand what she meant by mentioning the Ganhai Holy Spirit. Was it a threat? But everyone, think about it. No matter how powerful the Ganhai Holy Spirit was, he was still an alien Star Lord. Why would he dare to seal the Tianwu world's teleportation array for 10 years? Chapter 34-37. The patriarchs were still silent, but their expressions were quietly changing. Ganhai dared to target a core disciple's world, so he obviously had something to rely on. No one knew who this reliance was, but in short, it was someone who didn't fear core disciples. Seeing everyone's changing expressions, Jolena continued, "Everyone, think about it again. Why would a five-star patriarch want to kill a core disciple he had never met before? Moreover, he joined forces with other forces?" Hearing this, everyone was stunned. It was obvious that Gon Hai had become the scapegoat. How could he have done it? Jolena suddenly stretched out a slender finger and said, "Don't say you don't believe it. I don't believe it either. Even my lord doesn't believe it. But that's the truth. No one knows what benefits Gon Hai received, or if he only received a promise and began to help others. But it's clear that in the end, not only did those people not thank Gon Hai, but they even pushed him out to resolve their own crisis." These words were so straightforward that everyone's expressions changed again. This time, they were no longer thinking about Gon Hai, but themselves. Changing the topic, Lina continued, "To be honest, all of you are very important to the Gon Hai sacred region. Without your support, the Gon Hai sacred region will lose a lot of popularity. But have you ever thought that even if you leave, this sanctuary with core disciples will not disappear? As long as it doesn't disappear, there will naturally be a day when it flourishes again. I admit that you are very important, but not to the point that you are indispensable. I believe that my lord, who far surpasses other core disciples in terms of talent and combat strength, will definitely make this place even more prosperous in the future because he will be able to obtain many resources that ordinary people can't." No one spoke. Lina was the only one who spoke. "You should be very uninformed and don't know what happened in the core area. You only think that I'm trying to gain popularity for my lord, so it's inevitable that my words are exaggerated. In fact, my lord has already suppressed the Hu and Xin families in the core area with his own strength. Those core disciples are so scared that they don't even dare to leave their homes. Even the most shrewd people had a change in expression when they heard these words. The core region was a complete secret to them. Normally, it was extremely difficult to even see a single core disciple. This time, if it weren't for the fact that someone had contacted them in secret and that they were worried that the master of the Tianwu world was too cruel, they would have been more than happy to stay here. It's up to you whether to believe it or not, but I would like to give everyone a piece of advice. Even an expert like Gon Hai could be pushed out by someone at a critical moment. What are you in the eyes of those people?" Jolena sneered. "Do you really think that those people are sincerely trying to win you over because they think that you have unlimited potential? Don't joke around. You're just pawns in a battle. Our biggest loss is to regain our popularity. As for you guys, once you lose the value of the game, what do you think will be left with you? A better and more prosperous area?" He thought about Gon Hai's ending and then thought about himself. "Perhaps at some point, when the two sides face each other head-on, you will be abandoned again." After Jolena finished speaking, she turned around and left decisively. As long as the pros and cons were clearly explained, these people would definitely know what to choose. After all, this wasn't a personal benefit, but a family's future. When Jolena walked out of the main hall, Wu Lu was already waiting outside. Behind him was a group of people from the enforcement team. "My lord, everyone is under control. Next, we'll have to wait for you to take over." Seeing Jolena walk out, Wu Lu immediately cupped his fists and bowed. He was a holy spirit, and Jolena hadn't even ascended her spirit. However, he didn't feel awkward at all when she called him my lord. Jolena nodded politely at Wu Lu, then walked towards Gon Hai's mansion, which was the core of the sanctuary. The people here were already under the control of the enforcement team. It was obviously impossible to take anything away. Yaheng had been following beside Jolena the whole time. Speaking of which, Wu Li's attitude towards Jolena had shocked him. With Wu Li's help, the process of taking over was very smooth. A lot of resources were checked out. After Jolena checked the resources, she took over everything. Everyone who was directly related to Gon Hai was dismissed by Jolena with extra rewards. Immediately after, she appointed some people to temporarily manage the city lord's mansion. After Jolena returned, she brought some people from Zichen's world to stabilize the situation. As the popularity of the sanctuary decreased, Jolena started to release some loose conditions, mainly for the business forces. The treatment was very generous. However, there were still forces that left, even at all costs. It was like sacrificing 800 of your own to kill 1,000 enemies. It was completely unfavorable. Jolina's words weren't useless. There were still some forces that stayed and didn't leave immediately. Other than the forces leaving, there were also many rumors that spread. This caused the popularity of the Gone-High Sanctuary to decrease rapidly. Jolina was a little overwhelmed dealing with this kind of thing. There was a limit to the loss of popularity. After the situation gradually stabilized, Jolina sent people to eliminate those who deliberately spread rumors and punish them severely. Half a year later, the popularity gradually stabilized, and the situation was initially stable. To be able to stabilize the situation in just half a year, in addition to some of Jolina's Thunderous methods, the business forces that came in successively also gave a lot of help. The number of new business forces was not small. It was equivalent to sending charcoal in snowy weather. And most of these business forces had a big background. Tracing back, they all had the background of a core disciple. These were the forces that Zichun had deliberately lured in. If they were in the core region, they wouldn't count for much, but in the outer regions, they were all famous forces. The original crisis was thus resolved. The forces that didn't leave were all very glad after seeing these big forces come in. With them here, there was no need to worry about the popularity of the sanctuary. With the arrival of more business forces, the sanctuary became more and more lively. The popularity began to return. 2 years later, the situation stabilized. These business forces that didn't leave were all very glad, because the business forces that left recently began to contact these forces, hoping to help say some good words, and wanted to come back. Just as Jolina said, after many business forces came in, the game was announced to be over. As for those who had left earlier, they naturally became sacrificial lambs. Chapter 34-38. 3 years later, the Gone-High Sanctuary was officially renamed the Tianwu Sanctuary. The current core of the sanctuary was still the world of the Gone-High Sanctuary. This world currently had nearly 100 big and small cities. Although it had not yet recovered to its original glory, its popularity was rising month by month, which was a good sign. As for the Tianwu world, it was not completely open to the outside world yet. Jolina planned to develop this place into something like a holy land, one level higher than the Gone-High Sanctuary. If the Gone-High Sanctuary was at the level of a bustling city, then the future Tianwu world would be a higher level of prosperity. The major forces had already entered the Tianwu world and began to build this world full of strange ancient trees. This time, the Jella family had contributed a lot, and both sides had reached a consensus on the matter of weapon refinement. Time passed, and several years passed quickly. Zichun, who was in seclusion, had a third holy power lightning ball appear around him. Nearly 10 years had passed, and there were not many spoils left from his last challenge. As for the distribution of his resources, it would take a long time. Zichun decided to go to the Tianwu world to take a look. He wondered how the Gone-High Sanctuary was doing now. Returning to the Tianwu world with ease, Zichun found that it was much more lively than before. After returning to the core tree city, Zichun went to find Jolina. Jolina was dealing with some matters. When she saw Zichun, her eyes immediately lit up in surprise. "Why are you here?" Zichun said, "I've finished refining the resources, so I came to see how the development here is going." Jolina said, "Everything is developing steadily. The popularity of the Tianwu Sanctuary has basically returned to the past." "Oh, I forgot to tell you, the original Gone-High Sanctuary has officially been renamed the Tianwu Sanctuary." Zichun smiled and said, "You're very thoughtful. You came back at the right time. I plan to develop the Tianwu world into a higher-level world. In the future, this place will be more prosperous, and more experts will come," Jolina said. "That's a good thing. Do you need my help?" Zichun asked. "Of course. If you want more experts to come here, you need to take out something that can attract them." Jolina said, "I can't give you these things. I can only rely on you." Jolina looked at Zichun and said, "You have to do everything you can to obtain as many rare resources as possible. Only then will we be able to retain more experts." Zichun pondered for a moment before saying, "That's a good idea, but with the resources I've obtained alone, it should be impossible to maintain the operation of a world, right?" Jolina said, "This is indeed quite difficult." Zichun smiled bitterly. "It's not just big. It's impossible. Jolena said, "Giving you resources is just the first step to attract popularity. The second step is the most crucial one. Our world must have something special." "What is it?" Zichen asked curiously. "What's in the core sacred region where you are?" Jolena asked instead of answering. "There are 4 kinds of rooms in the sacred thunder world, and the spiritual power there is very rich. It's very suitable for the people of the Holy Thunder Clan to cultivate. In addition, there are many exotic flowers and herbs outside. That's the real core of the Holy Thunder Clan. In the core sacred region, those who came and went were either geniuses or people from great forces. There was absolutely no ordinary person. After all, that was the highest level world of the Holy Thunder Clan." Zichen's expression suddenly changed. He said, "Are you thinking of?" Jolena nodded and said, "That's right. Our world will develop like this. So before that, the Tianwu world has to move." "Move? Where?" Zichen asked doubtfully. "I've asked around. In the outer zone of the Holy Thunder world, some high-grade sacred regions are mostly very close to the Thunder Sea. The spiritual power of heaven and earth there is richer. As the world continues to absorb and grow, the grade of spiritual power in the world is also constantly increasing." Jolena said, "The most attractive thing there is the cultivation conditions." Zichen said, "Do you want me to put the world in the outer zone of the Thunder Sea?" Jolena shook her head and said, "No, that's just a small trick. I want you to put the world in the Thunder Sea of the core sacred region." "What?" Zichen's expression changed when he heard that. The Thunder Sea of the core sacred region, in addition to the terrifying power of thunder, was even more of a secret to the Holy Thunder Clan. Ordinary outsiders were not allowed to set foot there at all. Looking at Zichen's changing expression, Jolena pointed to the top and said, "This is your world. It's obviously different from their world. I think it can completely withstand the baptism of terrifying thunder. In addition, you also have the absolute right to speak. You can set the rules you think. As long as you don't agree, no one can break this world." Zichen understood what Jolena meant. In the past, he had also stayed in a world. After reaching the Spirit Ascension realm, he had broken through the world and arrived at the Saint Spirit realm. Right now, for the living beings of the Tianwu world, the area they were in was a complete world. Zichen was the master of that world, and he could control the life and death of living beings at will. As long as he was unwilling, no one could break through the world and leave. This was because the power of the world all listened to him. At the same time, it was also because the Tianwu world was a real world. There were countless living beings that could survive there. It was different from the world that was created by cultivation. The Tianwu world was complete, perfect, and also unique. However, if he wanted to put the world in the Thunder Sea, it was obviously not a simple matter. He needed to find someone to ask about it. If this is done, then the greatest advantage of the Tianwu world will be the density of spiritual power and the speed of cultivation. At that time, just by renting out the area, we will be able to earn a lot of resources. Xiaolina said, "That's the only way for you to break through to the next level quickly. Otherwise, with the current income of the Tianwu star area, you might not be able to break through to the next level in 10,000 years. We need to create an area similar to the core city because we have a different Tianwu continent." Zichen needed to find someone to ask about this matter. If it was really successful, then in the future, the Tianwu world would definitely be a gathering of strong people. At that time, the income would naturally be very considerable. "This is for you." Before leaving, Zichen took out a talisman and gave it to Jolena. This was something he had won in the last battle. It was not very useful to him, but to Jolena, it was a good thing to protect herself. "Take it to protect yourself." Jolena did not refuse. Her current realm was too low. Although there were strong people guarding her, it was naturally good to have one more life-saving thing. "I will go back to the core city and ask about this matter." Zichen, who had just arrived, immediately left. On the way back, Zichen was thinking about who to ask. Gloria should know about this matter, but she definitely did not have the authority. Pei Wenyao thought the same. Chapter 34-39. The Holy Sage of Thunder Earth had a lot of power, so he could get it done easily. However, Zichen did not want to trouble the Holy Sage too much. Just like last time, Before he knocked on the door, the butler stood at the door and looked at Zichen with a smile. Young Master Zichen, I am sorry. The holy sage has not returned yet. Zichen scratched his head and said embarrassedly, I am not here to look for the holy sage. I am here to ask the butler something. Oh, you are here to look for me? Come in quickly. The butler was surprised and invited Zichen in. Then, he brought him to the side hall and poured him a cup of tea. What is it? The butler sat beside Zichen. I want to put the world in the Thunder Sea. Is that okay? Zichen thought about it and decided to ask directly, put the Thunder Sea directly? The energy there is very violent. How can it be better than the core area? The butler was confused and asked, why do you want to put the world there? Zichen did not hide it and said directly, I want to develop the world into a lively and prosperous place, similar to the core city. The butler nodded and apparently understood what Zichen meant. I am here to ask if there will be too much trouble, or if I need to get someone's approval. Zichen asked again. The steward thought for a moment and said, under normal circumstances, you need to pay attention to two problems. The first is whether or not there will be some people with bad intentions sneaking into the core of the sacred Thunder tribe through your world. The second problem is whether or not the world can withstand the violent lightning in the Thunder Sea. Zichen said, my world is closely connected to me. If it is not too strong, the butler reached out and interrupted Zichen and said with a smile, as long as you know the first thing, it does not matter what the result is. I think in this world, no one would dare to look for trouble with the Holy Thunder Clan. You need to pay attention to the second thing. Can your world withstand the continuous raging of the Thunder Sea? If it is forcefully disintegrated, it will have a great impact on your cultivation. In history, similar things have happened before. Zichen said, I want to try. Besides, I have some confidence in my own world. Now? The butler asked. Can I? Zichen was stunned. Don't you need some approval? The butler smiled and said, the Thunder Sea is infinitely big. How much can you occupy? Furthermore, this can be considered as a form of training. To the Thunder tribe, anything that can train their disciples is a good thing. The butler stood up and said, if you're ready, we'll go now. Zichen immediately stood up with an excited look on his face. He didn't expect things to go so smoothly. Just as he stood up, Zichen felt a powerful force coming from behind him. Before he could react, a bang sound rang out. Zichen's body flew out of the room and landed on the ground, falling flat on his face. This action is very handsome. A childish laugh rang out. He's so handsome. Zichen heard the voice and turned around. He saw a young boy standing there, looking at him with a smile. Clan ancestor. Zichen, who was about to lose his temper, instantly changed his expression and pretended to be shocked. Hee, what did you say? I didn't hear it. The clan ancestor walked forward and deliberately leaned over. Zichen turned over and got up. His sudden movement startled the clan ancestor, who retreated reflexively. Soon, he noticed the abnormality and glanced at the butler. The butler turned his head and looked at the other side, pretending not to see it. Zichen greets the clan ancestor. Zichen, who turned over and got up, quickly cupped his fists and saluted with a loud voice. The clan ancestor glanced at Zichen's wrist and didn't notice the suppression of his aura. He snorted and said, boy, you're quite sensible. You know that I have to salute you when I see you. Zichen said with a smile, that's right. The clan ancestor is the peak power of our Holy Thunder Clan. Who doesn't salute you respectfully when they see you? I'll be satisfied if I have 1 or 2 10,000ths of your power. The clan ancestor was very pleased. He stepped forward and stretched out his palm. Zichen deliberately bent over. The clan ancestor patted him on the shoulder and said, you're a good boy. I'm in a good mood today, so I'll take you to the Thunder Sea. As soon as he finished speaking, the three of them disappeared. When they reappeared, Zichen was already in the Thunder Sea. As far as the eye could see, there were thunderbolts everywhere, and a terrifying pressure swept through every place. The clan ancestor stood in the Thunder Sea and said proudly, boy, this is the Thunder Sea of the core area. As a core disciple, you should naturally put your world here. So, do you have confidence? The butler deliberately stood behind the clan ancestor and remained silent. Zichun extended his spiritual thoughts and perceived the power of the thunderbolts. After a while, he said, "It should be no problem." The clan ancestor laughed and said, "Boy, you're not modest at all. In that case, why don't you give it a try while I'm in a good mood?" Zichun nodded and began to summon the Zichun Palace. In the sky above the Tianwu world, the Zichun Palace suddenly appeared, releasing tens of thousands of thunderbolts. A suction force appeared from the Zichun Palace and enveloped the Tianwu world below. The Tianwu world rose with the suction force and slowly shrank at the same time until it entered the Zichun Palace. In the next moment, the Zichun Palace disappeared. In the Tianwu world, many people only felt that the world was bright, and the original sunlight had disappeared. The light of those transmission arrays immediately dimmed, as if they were broken. Other than that, there was nothing unusual. The so-called shaking and trembling did not appear. Jolena walked out of the room and looked up at the sky. Her expression changed slightly. In front of Zichun, brilliance circulated, and the Zichun Palace appeared. Countless thunderbolts raged, but they could not do anything to the Zichun Palace. The Tianwu world flew out of the Zichun Palace and fell into the Thunder Sea. The falling world began to enlarge. Outside the world, there was also thunderbolts lingering, like a layer of protection. The two different thunderbolts collided, and a roar resounded. In the Tianwu world, everyone heard a deafening sound coming from outside the world. The Tianwu world fell into the Thunder Sea, and the rules of the world began to operate according to Zichun's will. Like countless tentacles, they extended from the world and began to capture the power of the thunderbolts in the Thunder Sea. These thunderbolts passed through the world's protection and turned into pure power, entering the Tianwu world. Some of the power turned into pure thunderbolts, while the other part was scattered into the countless rules of the world. This was the uniqueness of the Tianwu world. It could decompose the power of thunderbolts, so it was suitable for everyone to cultivate. Chapter 3440. Your world looks pretty good. The vain ancestor looked at the world in front of him and praised. The housekeeper nodded in agreement. The pressure of this core Thunder Sea was extremely great. If a normal world came here, it would inevitably be suppressed. The best result would be that its size would keep shrinking, and the worst result would be that it would directly collapse. However, Zichun's world had been very stable from beginning to end. It did not expand too quickly, nor was it suppressed or shrunk. It had been steadily expanding until it adapted to the thunder here and took root here. Countless rules appeared in the world, as if they were about to merge with this Thunder Sea. At the same time, the countless pure energy contained in the Thunder Sea was forcibly extracted by the Tianwu world. The concentration of spiritual power in the Tianwu world was increasing at a constant rate. It might not be obvious in the beginning, but if it continued, the whole world would undergo earth-shaking changes. This would take time. The development of the Tianwu world also needed time. Both were just right. That's it. Zichun looked at the stable world, then looked at the vain ancestor and the housekeeper. The vain ancestor said, "Basically, it's your business now. Although outsiders are prohibited from sneaking into the Thunder Sea, you can occasionally open it to your own people." Zichun looked at the vain ancestor in confusion. The vain ancestor jumped up and knocked on Zichun's head. "Stupid, there are a lot of good things in the Thunder Sea. Wouldn't it be a waste if you don't look for them?" Zichun suddenly understood and glanced at the vain ancestor gratefully. "Don't worry. Even if someone wants to use your passage here to do something to the Thunder Clan, it is absolutely impossible to succeed, unless all the forces in the entire Saint Spirit world unite." The vain ancestor smiled and said, "Do you have any other doubts? If not, I'm leaving." Zichun shook his head and then cupped his fists to thank him. The next moment, the vain ancestor and the housekeeper disappeared. At this point, Zichun was completely sure that the vain ancestor would not target him. Although the other party looked like a child, he still had the spirit of an ancestor. With a flash of light, Zichun returned to the Tianwu world. As the ruler of this world, his senses were very sharp. He knew very well what kind of changes were taking place in this world. Apart from the energy of heaven and earth, the first to be concentrated was the earth that nurtured all living things. A large amount of spiritual energy sank into the ground. After the baptism of time, the world would change greatly. It might not be able to become a place like the inner world, but it was definitely of a much higher grade than an ordinary world. In fact, many people with sharp senses had already noticed the abnormality in the world. Heaven and earth lit up. With a thought from Zichun, boundless power gathered in the air and condensed into a golden sun. The sun shone down again. It was warm, and the earth was full of vitality. The sun was fake, and there would be a fake moon at night. This world was fake to Zichun, but it was real to other living beings. It was both fake and real. Back in Tree City, Zichun looked at Jolina and said, "Start your plan?" Jolina asked, "What's the situation?" Zichun said, "At present, it's still on the periphery, but it will slowly go deeper. In the future, the spiritual energy should surpass any city in the outer domain." "Well, it's up to you now," Jolina said. If he wanted to gather popularity, he needed something to attract people. In this regard, Zichun naturally needed to deal with it. Zichun suddenly thought of something and said, "I got some materials last time, but they're basically useless. Take them and deal with them." They were the things in Julin's treasure house. Although most of them were materials of the ascending spirit realm, some were also needed by holy spirits. In addition, there were some resources he obtained after killing Julin that he didn't need. After handing these resources to Jolina, Zichun left the Tianwu world and went to the Tianwu sacred region to check it out. Originally, Zichun didn't deliberately learn about the Tianwu sacred region. Now that he saw the popularity of the Tianwu world, it was not bad. Moreover, with the addition of many forces, he believed that the Tianwu sacred region would become more and more popular in the future. After patrolling, Zichun went to the core city. The Tianwu sacred region was still developing, and the resources it obtained were used by Jolina to rebuild it. Therefore, Zichun couldn't get any resources from here. He even had to find some special resources to attract people for the future popularity of the Tianwu world. After returning to the core city, Zichun went to find Grace. He was ready to enter the Divine Spirit battlefield. Grace said, "If you want to enter the Divine Spirit battlefield, you need to make arrangements in advance. Moreover, the Divine Spirit battlefield is divided into 3 levels. Which level do you want to enter?" "Which 3 levels?" Zichun asked, puzzled. "Earth level, Heaven level, and Saint level." Grace explained, "The danger of the Earth level is relatively low. The danger of the Heaven level and Saint level is constantly increasing." "Do you have any good suggestions?" Zichun asked. He obviously didn't know much about the Divine Spirit battlefield. The beasts in the Earth level are relatively ordinary. The beasts in the Heaven level are much stronger. Do you still remember the Holy Thunder Demon Bone that Monk Shengju wanted? The Heaven level battlefield has it. If you are lucky, you can get it. But the Saint level is different. Most of the beasts there are special and extremely powerful. The weakest among them is in existence at the level of a 4-star Holy Spirit. At the end, Grace's expression became much more solemn. The Saint-level battlefield is the most dangerous. This is also the reason why the Holy Thunder Demon Bone is extremely rare. If you want my advice, I think it's better for you to enter the Heaven-level battlefield and familiarize yourself with it. "I'll go directly to the Saint level," Zichun said after thinking for a while. "You have to think carefully. It's very dangerous there," Grace said. "Even some core disciples don't dare to casually step into that place." Zichun said, "That's why I want to go there. Fewer people meant fewer troubles." Moreover, Zichun was now a 3-star Holy Spirit. Even his physical body had reached the 3-star Holy Power realm. If he encountered a 4-star, he would not be afraid at all. Even if he encountered a 5-star, he would still have the power to fight. After applying to enter the Divine Spirit battlefield, Zichun once again returned to the Tianwu world. Jolina told Zichun that he could only stay on the Divine Spirit battlefield for 10 years at most. This was because after 10 years, the Tianwu world would need to be completely open to the outside world to accumulate popularity. In these 10 years, Jolina also needed to pull in more forces to develop the world together. She needed to make all the preparations in advance. 2 days later, Zichun took the core disciple token and entered the Divine Spirit battlefield. Chapter 3441. Roar. The roar was like a thunderclap, and a strong wave of air spread out. The spiritual grass in the surroundings fell, and the wave went away. Looking at the roaring giant ape in front of him, Zichun narrowed his eyes, and a murderous intent appeared in his eyes. This was the first mutated beast he had encountered since coming to the divine spirit battlefield. 10 days had passed. Judging from the aura emitted from the giant ape, it was equivalent to a 4-star sacred spirit, which was the weakest existence on the battlefield. The giant ape rushed towards Zichun with a piercing howl. It did not use any mysterious techniques, but only pure physical strength. It was as if it was going to break through space and come at him in a straight line. Zichun took a step forward and clenched his right fist, and 3 thunderballs emerged from his body. There was a loud bang, and a powerful ripple spread out. 100 feet away, Zichun glanced at his numb palm, and there was a look of surprise in his eyes. He did not gain the upper hand in this collision, and was directly blasted back 100 feet. With another roar, the giant ape rushed forward. Its thick palms whistled as they slammed down. Between its palms, black demonic energy began to churn. Sacred thunder, explode. With a low shout, Zichun used a technique. 3 thunderballs gathered in his fist, and the fist shone brightly with countless lightning snakes circling around it. There was another roar, and a stronger wave spread out. The violent power of thunder drowned the giant ape's body, and countless thunderbolts raged, and the giant ape screamed in pain. When the energy dissipated, Zichun saw that the giant ape's scales were broken in many places, and blood was flowing out. Its eyes gradually turned red, and a violent aura emerged from its body. Boom, boom. A man and a beast fought together. As their powerful forces collided, there was a constant roar, and countless waves spread out. Zichun used the strength of a 3-star physical body, and the giant ape seemed to have a violent supernatural power similar to the demonic ape. As its injuries worsened, its strength also increased. Zichun began to use the power of his sacred spirit, 1 star, 2 stars. He did not use the demonic saber, and fought the giant ape with his bare hands until the giant ape's injuries worsened, and it was on the verge of death. With a bang, the giant ape was sent flying to the ground, blood splattering everywhere. Looking at this divine blood, Zichun felt a bit of heartache. Once he refined this blood, he would be able to sell it for a good price, and it would be of great help to the world. The giant ape's red eyes gradually became lifeless. It was obvious that it was about to reach the end of its life. Zichun walked forward, intending to deal the final blow. Suddenly, a dangerous aura surged out from the giant ape's body. A bolt of lightning appeared on the giant ape's body that was originally surrounded by black light. The lightning came from its arm and was abnormally bright. Seeing this scene, Zichun's expression couldn't help but change. Holy thunder, demon bone! The sudden change caused the giant ape's strength to increase once again, and its injuries seemed to have healed in an instant. It roared furiously and pounced towards Zichun once again. This strike was like a thunderbolt. Zichun no longer dared to be careless and used the power of 3 stars. At this moment, he had used all of his strength. Holy thunder explosion. 3 lightning balls entered his fist, and with the power of 3 stars, Zichun's strike had reached its limit. Boom! The fist aura exploded, and countless lightning bolts enveloped the giant ape's body like a torrent, instantly drowning out its powerful strength. Howls of anguish could be heard as the giant ape struggled in the violent lightning. After a moment, the energy dissipated, and the giant ape fell to the ground, motionless. It was dead, and there was still lightning flashing on its arm. Zichun stepped forward, took out the Holy Spirit flying dagger, and began to dissect the giant ape's body. Its bones were very hard, but only its arm was emitting lightning. This should be the Holy Thunder Demon Bone that Monk Shengju wanted. As for the other bones, they were normal demon bones that could be used to refine weapons. After cleaning up the battlefield, Zichun was deep in thought. He finally understood why the Holy Thunder Demon Bone was so expensive. It was a rare item even in the Holy Thunder clan. It was because he only got 1 bone from killing a 4-star exotic beast. Moreover, he had used all of his strength. If it were any other core disciple, It would be too difficult to kill a 4-star exotic beast with 3-star strength. What Zichun didn't know was that most of the core disciples of the Holy Thunder clan hunted in the heaven-level battlefield to train themselves. Those who entered the saint-level battlefield were all high-level powerhouses. These powerhouses often had aristocratic families behind them, and they might even be the head of a family. Most of the resources they obtained were digested within the family, and they rarely sold to the outside world. That was why the Holy Thunder Demon Bone was so rare. In the following time, Zichun moved forward and found some exotic beasts one after another. After killing them one by one, he could get some Holy Thunder Demon Bones. As time passed, Zichun, who had killed more and more exotic beasts, discovered a pattern. These exotic beasts were very strong in combat, but with the Holy Thunder Demon Bone, they would be even stronger. Every additional Holy Thunder Demon Bone in one's body would increase one's strength. Moreover, the Holy Thunder Demon Bone was very hard. Even if Zichun used the demonic blade, he wouldn't be able to split it in half. If it was used to refine weapons, it would be processed with special materials. In the continuous battles, Zichun's harvest gradually increased. At the same time, his combat strength was also tempered to a certain extent. 1 piece, 2 pieces, 3 pieces. The number of demonic bones in the bodies of the exotic beasts he encountered gradually increased. Naturally, their battle prowess also became stronger. After staying here for 2 whole years, Zichun encountered a 5-star exotic beast for the first time. The moment his spiritual senses detected the other party, Zichun began to retreat. Swoosh! In the process of retreating, Zichun used the 9 flashes of Holy Thunder, increasing his speed like a bolt of lightning. At this moment, his face revealed a vigilant look. He had been here for more than 2 years and had killed many exotic beasts. This was his first time encountering a 5-star exotic beast, and he didn't expect to be set up. If it wasn't for Zichun's extraordinary spiritual senses, he probably wouldn't have known that he had been deliberately set up. At this moment, within the range of Zichun's spiritual senses, exotic beasts were constantly flying in his direction, forming a circle. At this moment, the encirclement was closing in. There were more than 24-star exotic beasts, which was equivalent to more than 24-star core disciples. In addition, there was a 5-star beast chasing after them. Zichun, who had used his extreme speed, was very glad that his spiritual senses were strong enough and could extend to a wide range. Otherwise, he would have fallen into the trap. The 5-star exotic beast was closing in, but the distance between the two parties was very far. In addition, Zichun had used his extreme speed. It was obviously impossible for the other party to catch up to him. This scheme had obviously failed. As long as he broke out of the encirclement, Zichun would be able to start killing these exotic beasts one by one. Looks like my luck isn't bad. Zichun smiled. In just a moment, he would be able to break out of the encirclement. At this moment, within the range of his spiritual senses, the 5-star exotic beast's forelegs suddenly lit up with lightning. Just as Zichun sensed the abnormality, he saw the other party's speed suddenly increase. The distance between the two was rapidly closing. Zichun discovered in shock that his 3-star Holy Thunder extreme speed wasn't as fast as the other party. Chapter 3442. Looking at the 5-star beast in the sky, Zichun was so shocked that he couldn't say a word. Although he was only at the 3-star level, he had mastered 3 flashes of the 9 flashes of the Holy Thunder. In terms of speed, he could suppress many 5-star holy spirits. But now, he was being overtaken by a beast. It was a black beast with scales all over its body that looked like a shadow leopard. Only its forelegs were flashing with lightning. According to Zichun's 2 years of experience, the beast's 4-leg bones must be the Holy Thunder Demon Bone. But why was the Holy Thunder Demon Bone able to move so quickly? After a short pause, streams of light appeared from all directions. Other beasts of different forms came one after another. He was surrounded. There was a hint of mockery in the 5-star beast's cold eyes. It slowly retreated. Zichun took a step forward, and his body lit up. He was a 3-star holy spirit with 3 lightning balls around him. He shouted at the beasts, "Back off or I'll kill you." The mockery in the 5-star beast's eyes intensified. Angry roars came from all directions. It was as if thunder shook heaven and earth. Countless sound waves spread in all directions, forming layers of attacks. Ripples surged around Zichen's body as he charged forward. As he rushed forward, the demonic saber was in his hand. A 4-star beast rushed towards Zichen. It was a beast in the shape of a deer. The antlers on its head released the light of lightning. The antlers were the mutated Holy Thunder Demon Bone, which was also the hardest part of the beast's body. The antlers moved forward with terrifying power as if they were divine weapons. Zichen's body flickered with lightning. Before the attack arrived, he disappeared into thin air. He didn't fight directly. Instead, he chose to dodge. The moment he dodged, he unsheathed the demonic saber. The saber arc swept across the beast's neck. A line of blood spread out, and the beast's head was separated from its body. There were too many beasts here. Facing a siege, Zichen didn't dare to be careless. After killing one beast, Zichen used the 9 flashes of the Holy Thunder again. His figure flashed continuously, avoiding one attack after another. At this moment, all the beasts involved in the siege had the Holy Thunder Demon Bone. As for the part that had turned into the Holy Thunder Demon Bone, its attack was extremely powerful. If this scene was seen by others, they would definitely not be happy, but terrified. Mutated beasts that possessed the Holy Thunder Demon Bone were stronger than other mutated beasts in the first place. Coupled with the unique Holy Thunder Demon Bone, every mutated beast was comparable to a core disciple of the same level, or perhaps even stronger. Pooh! While dodging, Zichen kept unsheathing his demonic saber. Every strike of his was at full strength. The consumption rate began to increase. Puff, puff, puff. The exotic beasts died one after another. Zichen was like a bolt of lightning, moving among the many exotic beasts. It looked like he was a fish in water, very relaxed. In fact, that wasn't the case. Among a group of 4-star exotic beasts, his spiritual energy was at its peak. Every time he dodged, the energy he expended far exceeded what he used to. In such a short period of time, he had already used up 30% of his energy. If it were anyone else, even a 4-star Holy Spirit would have died a long time ago, let alone a 3-star Holy Spirit. The 4-star exotic beasts died one after another. The ones that were still alive were all fearless and kept attacking. The 5-star exotic beasts in the distance watched the battle indifferently. They didn't join the battle, nor did they leave. As the consumption continued, Zichen's speed gradually slowed down. Some of the attacks could no longer be avoided, and there were more bloody wounds on his body. Fortunately, his physical body was strong enough. Although he looked like he was covered in wounds, his muscles and bones weren't damaged. After the last 4-star exotic beast was killed, Zichen's energy consumption had reached its limit. His body was covered in bloody wounds. The armor he had plundered had long lost its spiritual power and was completely scrapped. More than 20 corpses fell to the ground. The Holy Thunder Demon Bone was clearly visible. This was an endless amount of wealth. Just taking out any one of these pieces would cause a great scramble for it. The 5-star exotic beast that had been watching the battle silently walked forward slowly. Black light appeared on its body. Only its 4 legs were shining with lightning. Half of the sky was dyed black at this moment. A strong pressure swept towards Zichen. Zichen looked at the exotic beast and said in a deep voice, "You're smart. You know how to exhaust my energy first. However, you shouldn't have come looking for trouble with me." Zichen took a deep breath. The energy of heaven and earth entered his body and was quickly refined, recovering his energy consumption. Under the cover of the dark light, a bolt of lightning appeared. Zichen only saw a blur before his abdomen suffered a heavy blow. With a loud bang, his body flew backward. The 5-star exotic beast stood where he was before, staring at Zichen with disdain. So fast, Zichen wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. This was the fastest 5-star Holy Spirit he had seen so far. In the previous moment, he only saw a blurry shadow before he suffered a heavy blow. Fortunately, his physical body was strong. Otherwise, he would have been seriously injured by the previous blow. Under the black energy, lightning flashed again, and a strong wind blew. Zichen still couldn't see anything. However, when he sensed danger, He held his saber in front of him. Boom! With a loud boom, Zichun was sent flying again. This time, before Zichun could react, the sky darkened as if night had fallen. Danger was approaching. Zichun's eyes lit up. It was the eye of destruction. He instantly saw through the dark surroundings. At the same time, he saw the 5-star exotic beast approaching. The exotic beast stretched out its sharp claws and slapped at his head. If this attack hit, Zichun would be seriously injured even if he didn't die. A real light shot out and landed on the exotic beast. The exotic beast's attack slowed down slightly. Taking advantage of this moment, Zichun dodged decisively. Zichun flashed to the exotic beast's side and slashed down with his saber. Swish! The bright saber arc flew away, splitting the darkness in two. Blood splattered in front of him. A deep bloody wound appeared on the 5-star exotic beast's body. The exotic beast's eyes shone. It couldn't believe that this human 3-star holy spirit, who had consumed a lot of energy, could hurt it. In the next moment, darkness descended again. The eye of destruction appeared in Zichun's eyes. This strange eye technique allowed him to see through the darkness clearly, and at the same time, he blocked the exotic beast's instantaneous attack. After dodging this time, Zichun punched. An all-out attack. The power of the demonic bone appeared. Countless lightning bolts circled around his fist. With a thunderous boom, a powerful shockwave spread out, breaking through the dark energy once again. If it weren't for the Eye of Destruction, Zichun would definitely be suppressed. However, at this moment, he was able to fight evenly with the exotic beast. However, that was all. With the advantage of the Eye of Destruction, Zichun left wounds on the 5-star exotic beast's body one after another. There were remnants of lightning power on the surface of those wounds. Gradually, the light wounds became serious. Seeing that it couldn't kill the human, the 5-star exotic beast was ready to flee. However, before it fled, it actually wanted to take away Zichun's spoils. Wong! Lightning flashed. The Holy Spirit flying dagger flew out. However, after chasing for nearly 100 miles, it saw the fleeing human standing there with a cold expression. It suddenly had a bad feeling in its heart and wanted to retreat. Too late. Zichun's cold voice rang out as he made the last seal in his hand. A dazzling ray of light lit up the sky. A bolt of lightning fell from the sky, and a rumbling sound rang out in the wilderness. The energy that Zichun had recovered earlier rapidly disappeared. The 5-star exotic beast let out a shrill cry. Thick smoke rose from its body as it fell to the ground. Zichun flew forward and came to the dead 5-star exotic beast. His eyes were cold. You really have a death wish. The dead 5-star exotic beast could no longer suppress its power, especially the holy thunder demon bone. In addition to its limbs, the teeth in its mouth were also part of the holy thunder demon bone. It was no wonder that it could penetrate its powerful body in an instant. Zichun gained a lot in this battle, but he also lost a lot. He wasted a 4th-grade sacred spirit elixir. The lightning controlling technique caused too much of a commotion. After taking away the 5-star exotic beast's corpse, Zichun decisively left this place. Tens of thousands of miles away, a middle-aged man who was training here suddenly raised his head and looked towards the end of his line of sight. There was a powerful fluctuation that could not be seen by the naked eye spreading in this direction. The middle-aged man's expression changed slightly, and he rushed towards the source of the fluctuation. Zichun's injuries had all healed. After the last battle, his cultivation had also improved a lot. At this moment, Zichun was holding a piece of holy thunder demon bone in his hand. It was rare for him to be in a daze. The holy thunder demon bone contained great power. Even after its master died, it was still so. It was normal for it to be in short supply in the Holy Thunder clan. In Zichun's opinion, it was normal. However, if the demonic beasts had the Holy Thunder demon bone, why didn't the humans of the Holy Thunder clan have it? One must know that Zichun's body was extremely strong. He could even condense the power of his physical body. However, in front of the Holy Thunder demon bone, he was still vulnerable. The Holy Thunder body tempering art was definitely one of the top techniques of the Holy Thunder clan. However, it still could not condense the lightning bone. Zichen looked at the holy thunder demon bone in his hand and placed it in his left hand. Then, he activated his right hand, and a powerful aura spread out. The 7 demon bones that had fused into one appeared. In Zichen's opinion, the 7 demon bones were not weaker than the holy thunder demon bone. It was just that their attributes did not match, so it could not unleash its full power. Then again, if the demonic race had something comparable to the holy thunder demon bone, why didn't the Holy Thunder Clan have it? There was no answer to this question for the time being. Zichen continued to move forward on the battlefield. After the battle with the 5-star beast last time, he became even more careful and cautious. In the blink of an eye, another 3 years passed. In these 5 years, Zichen had refined a lot of sacred crystals from the exotic beasts. His realm had improved tremendously, and he was not far away from 4-star. The improvement of his physical strength was not small either. It could even be said that it was greater. This was because Zichen had been using his physical body most of the time in the battle. Those exotic beasts could condense the Holy Thunder Demon Bone here. Zichen also hoped to use the Holy Thunder Body Tempering Art to condense the Lightning Bone here. When that time came, his combat strength would be even stronger. There was still half of the time left for the agreed time with Jolena. Zichen strived to make greater gains in the remaining time. Just as Zichen continued to move forward, others followed the footprints he left on the battlefield. Chapter 34-44. Beside a flowing river, Zichen stood indifferently. Drops of blood flowed down his arm. His shoulder was pierced, and his entire arm was almost crippled. In front of him was the corpse of a 5-star exotic beast. The exotic beast was good at hiding and took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack, injuring Zichen. Although he had been very careful, Zichen still fell into many difficult battles in the past few years. Injuries were inevitable. In this place, the number of times he ran away increased significantly. Taking a few steps forward and collecting the exotic beast's corpse, Zichen suddenly raised his eyebrows slightly. "Who is it? Come out." The forest was silent. There was no response. The sound of flowing water came from the river behind him. Zichen frowned slightly. Earlier, he was acutely aware that an aura had locked onto him. Suddenly, the forest split in the middle. Silently, a beam of light appeared in his sight. Zichen's pupil shrank. The light of power on his body surged. After years of fighting, Zichen had long given up hiding his strength. The 3-star divine spirit and the 3 thunderballs were all displayed. The demonic saber blocked, and a strong aura surged. With a bang, the light of power shattered. Zichen's body flew backward. He stood on the river, looking at the forest from afar. A person stood there. It was a stranger. Zichen had never seen him before. The power of thunder flowed around him. He was a 5-star divine spirit. The other party walked out of the forest, holding a thick, long saber in his hand. His eyes were cold. He opened his mouth as if to say something. Before he could finish his sentence, Zichen's figure had already disappeared. A dangerous aura came at him. The 5-star divine spirit shouted, "You're courting death." The saber slashed down. Its aura surged and directly cut the river in front of it. Zichen appeared behind the other party, fighting back-to-back with the 5-star divine spirit. There was a deep saber wound on his chest. His bones could be seen. He stood there, motionless. Behind him, the 5-star Holy Spirit froze in mid-slash. His eyes widened, filled with disbelief. The disconnected river in front of them reconnected and flowed downstream. Blood seeped out of the corner of the 5-star Holy Spirit's mouth. His body was slanted, and the long saber in his hand fell to the ground, making a sound. "Pooh!" Zichen suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. He turned around and collected the corpse, as well as the long blade that had fallen to the ground. Then, he flew towards the other side of the river. He and the 5-star Holy Spirit had decided life and death with one move. As soon as they left the riverside, a sword light flew from the horizon. It was like a sword that held up the sky. It once again divided the land into two, and even a clear cut appeared in the sky. After the sword light, a 5-star Holy Spirit caught up. He looked at the bloodstains on the ground and cursed, "Damn it!" He sent a message to the sky, then chased after them. A few moments later, another 8 people arrived, and they were all 5-star saint spirits. They took a cursory look at the battlefield, then crossed the river and continued their pursuit. He actually killed Hukai in one move. Truly amazing. Just as the 8 of them left, an indifferent voice rang out from the forest. A young man in a long black robe walked out of the forest. His eyes were like lightning, as if they contained infinite lightning. That should be his last attack. Hukai was killed because he didn't check. Another young man walked out. He was wearing a purple armor and carried a long spear on his back. But his senses are very sharp. He knew that danger was approaching, so he made the right choice in time. The young man's gaze fell on the other side, where there was a lot of 5-star exotic beasts' blood. Moreover, he is really strong. Among those at the same level, I'm afraid that only those at the peak of the core can suppress him. A faint smile appeared at the corner of the black-robed young man's mouth. Tuahua, are you afraid? The young man named Tuahua snorted coldly and said, I'm not afraid. I'm just excited. Being able to kill an existence comparable to the peak of the core, just thinking about it makes me excited. He stuck out his scarlet tongue and licked his lips. There was a hint of madness in his eyes. This time, we can't let him get away. Don't worry. With me, Guanjun, here, he won't be able to get away. The black-robed young man squatted down. He reached out and wiped the blood left by Ziqian on the ground, then held it in his hand. 2 beams of light shot out from his eyes. The light fell on the blood, which sizzled and evaporated quickly. Such pure power. No wonder he's so strong. When the blood dissipated, Guanjun's gaze turned to the other side of the river. This time, you're dead. The 2 figures disappeared from where they stood. Zichun was running away. He didn't know what kind of danger was behind him, but his strong senses told him that if he didn't end the battle quickly, death would have been waiting for him. Therefore, he used the Eye of Destruction and the demonic blade to kill the 5-star saint spirit at the cost of his injuries. After that, he ran away without hesitation. At this moment, there were 5-star saint spirits chasing after him within the range of his spiritual thoughts. These 5-star saint spirits were a great threat to him, but they weren't the real source of the crisis. Therefore, he didn't dare to stop and kill them one by one. Ziqian, who was severely injured, ran for some distance, but the sense of danger in his heart didn't disappear. Instead, it grew stronger. He swallowed the last life-saving elixir without hesitation. After the elixir entered his stomach, Ziqian's injuries began to heal. Damn it! Isn't this guy seriously injured? Why is he still so fast? The 5-star saint spirit, who was chasing after him, looked angry. He had been chasing for a long time, and he had consumed a lot of his energy, but his opponent hadn't fallen yet. The faces of the other 5-star saint spirits also darkened. They were all core disciples of the Thunder Clan. They were all 5-star saints and had mastered the Thunder Clan's powerful techniques, but they couldn't catch up with Zichun, who was only a 3-star saint. The few people with ugly expressions soon discovered that not only did Zichun's speed not slow down, it had instead become even faster. About 2 hours later, all the 5-star holy spirits stopped in their tracks because the enemy had disappeared. Spread out and look for him, the 5-star saint spirit in the lead said, looking terrible. The 9 5-star saint spirits were about to spread out when a cold voice came from behind them. Don't spread out. Chase him in a straight line. He's right in front. It was the 6-star saint spirit, Guanjun. He and Tuahua had caught up in time. The 9 5-star saint spirits obviously knew Guanzhang's means, so they moved forward without hesitation. Half a day later, they found the aura left by Zichun. A few hours later, they met Zichun. They still didn't fight. Zichun fled first. Chapter 34-45. Is this guy even human? Of course he is, but he's so weird. It's been half a year. We've been running for half a year. Yeah, we've met so many times in this half a year, but we haven't fought a single battle. That guy is not only as cunning as a rabbit, but his physical fitness is also freakishly strong. 2 5-star holy spirits flew forward, one on the left and one on the right. They were from the Hu and Xian families. One was called Hu Yang, and the other was called Xian Feiwei. They were two of the 9 5-star holy spirits who were chasing after Zichun. Since the first time Zichun entered the saint-level battlefield, the two families had been setting up a trap. They spent several years quietly sending 10 5-star holy spirits. Since Zichun was discovered half a year ago, and he had killed one of them at the cost of his life, the two parties had started a 6-year-long chase. Under the guidance of Master Guanzhun, they had found Zichun several times, but each time, he had cleverly escaped before they could surround him. There had not been a single battle. The 9 5-star saint spirits were all enraged. Guanzhen and Tuohua followed behind. Either of them had the ability to kill Zichun. Unfortunately, they had not found a chance to do so in the past half a year. Guanzhen, do you have a plan? Tuohua, who was walking forward, was slightly angry. If this continues, we won't be able to do anything. Guanzhen raised his eyebrows slightly. Looking at the silent Guanzhen, Tuohua said, we haven't done anything in the past half a year. If this continues, our reward won't be able to make up for our losses. A 6-star holy spirit would naturally gain quite a lot from staying in this area for half a year. However, they had been chasing after Zichun for half a year, and they had gained nothing. Guanzhen, who had been silent, suddenly said, for times, what? Tuohua looked at him in surprise. We've been here 4 times in half a year, Guanzhen said in a deep voice. You mean that guy is leading us in circles? That's impossible. Of course, Tuohua did not believe him. He was a 6-star holy spirit, and his senses were extremely sharp. If Zichun was leading them around in circles, how could he not sense it? It is indeed hard to believe, but I can see some remnants of power, Guanzhen said. That's why I'm sure this is the 4th time. How could this be? Tuohua's expression became unnatural. Who blocked our senses? Could it be that there is an expert secretly guarding Zichun? Guanzhen shook his head. It doesn't seem like it. If there really is a powerhouse, wouldn't it be better to just stop us? Why did he have to block his perception? You should know that Zichun's strength hasn't improved at all in the past 6 months, other than running away. Why don't we know we're going in circles? Guanzhen pointed at his feet and said, perhaps it's because of this area, this region? Tuohua was still extremely astonished and puzzled. Guanzhen smiled and said, you're focused on cultivation and don't care about the outside world. This is a saint-level battlefield. Other than danger, there are opportunities that come with danger. I'm guessing it's because of the terrain and not because of that guy. Maybe he doesn't know that he's been going in circles in the same place for the past 6 months. Tuohua's eyes lit up and said, you mean there might be opportunities here? Guanzhen smiled and said, maybe, but I just thought of a way to catch him. What way? Go back. If he comes here for the 5th time, then we can go back and catch him. Is that feasible? If he comes here for the 5th time, then this method will work. Otherwise, he'll run away. Tuohua shook his head and said decisively, we can't let him run away, or we'll lose even more. Guanzhen thought for a moment and said, well, then how about this? You take a few people and continue the chase. I'll take a few people and stay here. Tuohua said, I can't sense his presence, so I'll lose him. You go. I'll hide here until you show up. Don't worry, it'll take at least half a month. Zichun was in a bad mood because the pursuers had been chasing him for half a year. No matter how fast he sped up, he couldn't get rid of them. If it weren't for his sharp senses, he would have been caught and killed long ago. Along the way, the only thing that made him feel slightly better was the fact that they rarely encountered any spirit beasts. Not only did this prevent them from catching up to him, but it also prevented Zichun from seeing a spirit beast but not daring to kill it. Well, it's starting again. Zichun, who was running away, frowned. He had once again sensed a summoning force. This force had been there since the last time he ran away. It was just that it was sometimes strong and sometimes weak, so Zichun couldn't pinpoint its exact location. He had been urging all the strength in his body, and at the same time, using his spiritual thoughts to sense the direction of the summoning force. Zichun didn't have any extra gains in the past 6 months, but it was obviously wrong to say that he didn't have any gains. The pressure of escaping for his life had improved his lightning body by a lot, and the power of his 3 stars Holy Spirit had also increased a lot because of it. Now, Zichen was slowly changing his direction according to the strength of the summoning force. He didn't know that he had been running around in the same place all this time because his sharp senses were blocked by a mysterious force. In his spiritual thoughts, he felt a familiar wave again. He knew that the enemy was coming again. He didn't dare to be careless and gradually increased his speed. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Just like that, he ran for another half a month. The summoning force was getting stronger and stronger, but Zichen couldn't find the real door. He was like a headless fly bumping around the wall. The only thing that made him feel lucky was that the summoning force was unprecedentedly strong. The pursuers behind him were still catching up, step by step. Zichen suddenly stopped, and his expression changed drastically. All of a sudden, 5 auras appeared in front of him, blocking his path. He turned around, wanting to run away. At this moment, another powerful aura appeared behind him, blocking his escape route. He was surrounded. "You're right." A cold voice sounded, and a man in armor holding a spear appeared in Zichen's line of sight. The man didn't deliberately suppress his aura. Zichen cried out, "A 6 stars Holy Spirit! Your senses are indeed sharp. No wonder you could hold on for so long." Another voice came from behind, and Guanjin walked forward with a strange light in his eyes. At the same time, the 9 5 stars Holy Spirits began to close in on him. 2 6 stars and 9 5 stars. If the cavalry didn't fall from the sky, Zichen would be dead for sure. Chapter 3446. Zichen had been guessing that there were 6-star holy saints among the pursuers. Now, his guess had become a reality, and there was more than one. He quickly thought of a way to escape, but first, he dismissed the idea of forcefully breaking through the encirclement of the 5-star holy spirits. If he dared to move, he would definitely be struck by lightning. He was only a 3-star holy saint, and the weakest among them was 2 stars higher than him. But what puzzled Zichen was why they were blocking his way. "You're good at running." Guanjin came to the front, looked at Zichen, and said, "Tell me, why are you running around in circles?" "What?" Hearing Guanjin's words, Zichen's expression changed. He was running around in circles? No wonder they were able to block him. Looking at Zichen's changing expression, Guanjin said, "Looks like you really don't know." Zichen said in a low voice, "I really don't know why I'm running around in circles." "But how do you know?" Guanjin smiled faintly and said, "Because I have a special power that can find the traces you left behind." Zichen suddenly understood. No wonder the enemy had been following them like a ghost for half a year, refusing to leave for so long. At the same time, he also felt desperate. With such a guy following him, there was no way he could escape. "Tell me the reason. Why are you running around in circles?" Guanjin said, "Tell me the reason, and maybe I'll give you a quick death." Zichen did not answer but asked, "I have no grudges with you. Why are you chasing me?" "No grudges? Kid, you're really not afraid of biting your tongue in the wind." A 5-star holy spirit behind him sneered. Zichen looked at them and asked, "Are you from the Hu and Xin families?" The 5-star holy spirit snorted. Tuahua said, "I'm not." Guanjin smiled and said, "Neither am I." Zichen's mood did not improve because of this. Instead, it got worse. The two of them had no grudges with him, but they were in this team. Obviously, they were hired. The Hu clan and the Xin clan had actually hired 2 6-star martial artists. Naturally, the price they had paid was not small. At the same time, their desire to kill him was naturally extremely firm. "My patience is limited. Tell me, why are you wandering around this place?" Guanjin asked again. Zichen said, "Are you sure I'm going to go around in circles? Why else would you be surrounded?" Guanjin's expression turned cold. "Speak now, or I'll search your soul and find out everything I want to know." "All right, I'll tell you." As soon as Zichen finished speaking, he turned around and threw a punch to the side. This punch was his full strength. Countless streams of power converged into his fist. His punch landed in the air, but it did not miss. A ripple spread out, and a light barrier appeared in front of Zichen. There was a huge hole in the barrier, and on the other side of the hole was a bright space. Shua! Zichen rushed in without hesitation. At the same time, A cold smile flashed across Guanjin's face. True light shot out from his eyes and landed in the space that Zichen's punch had broken open. In the next moment, the healing space froze. "Let's go," Guanjin shouted and was the first to rush in. The others followed closely behind. Taking advantage of the moment when the healing space froze, they entered. This was a strange space. There was nothing in it, and one could not see the end of it at a glance. "Where is he?" Guanjun, who was the first to enter, released his powerful spiritual thoughts. However, he did not find any trace of Zichun. It was impossible for him to disappear in an instant. He could only say that this place was a little strange. Then, Guanjin realized that the others could not see him either. What the hell is going on? He was obviously puzzled. Then, he walked forward. Just as he walked for about 100 feet, a ray of light appeared in front of him. The ray of light landed and turned into an exotic beast. Lightning flashed on the exotic beast's body. Seeing this exotic beast, Guanjun's eyes widened in surprise. An exotic beast with the bone of the holy thunder demon. The exotic beast pounced forward, and a tyrannical aura surged. Guanjun exclaimed again, "Six-star realm." To him, an exotic beast with the bone of the holy thunder demon was definitely a big threat. As the danger approached, he slapped out with his palm. Countless lightning flashes circled around his palm, and a great battle broke out. Zichun had already felt despair, but after hearing Guanjun's words, he saw hope again. He had been following the summoning, but he did not expect to keep going in circles over and over again, but he could not find the entrance. Since that was the case, he would forcibly open an entrance. Moreover, Zichun sensed that the summoning power was the strongest in the place he had stopped at. In the end, he succeeded. Zichun came to a strange space. There was nothing in this space. He sensed that the pursuers behind him were following, so he sped up. The next moment, he saw an exotic beast blocking his way. His face became incomparably gloomy. There was indeed an exotic beast blocking his way, and a powerful pursuer behind him. However, Zichun soon sensed that something was wrong. The Holy Spirit that should have caught up with him immediately still did not appear. At the same time, Zichun sensed that the exotic beast in front of him was actually a 3-star one. One had to know that he had never fought a 3-star exotic beast in this area. In the information he had received, there were no 3-star exotic beasts at all. Before Zichun could continue thinking, the 3-star exotic beast charged at him. It stretched out its sharp claws with lightning flashing on them. Bone of the Holy Thunder Demon? Zichun was a little surprised, but he did not stop. He slapped down with his palm. He was not afraid of anyone at the same level. With a loud bang, the 3-star exotic beast was sent flying to the ground, its body tumbling far away. Roar! The exotic beast roared. After getting up, it charged at Zichun again, not fearing death. Zichun punched out. A 3-star Holy Spirit with the power of 3 lightning balls. Another boom rang out. Countless lightning bolts exploded, forming a shockwave. This punch landed on the 3-star exotic beast's head, directly destroying its soul. Swish! The space distorted, and the dead 3-star exotic beast disappeared. Zichun was slightly stunned. Where it disappeared, another 3-star exotic beast appeared, charging at Zichun without any explanation. Zichun did not understand what was going on. Why did the exotic beast from before disappear? Or did it revive? Another punch came down. With another boom, the 3-star exotic beast was killed again. Before Zichun could collect the corpse of the 3-star exotic beast disappeared again. Immediately after, a new 3-star exotic beast appeared. Zichun stared at the new exotic beast. After a short exchange, he realized that it was a little different from before. Although its cultivation level was the same, the number of Holy Thunder Demon bones it had was different. Zichun punched again. This time, he used the Holy Thunder Explosion, easily killing it. Chapter 34-47. Energy rumbled as the power of lightning surged. One after another, 3-star exotic beasts were easily killed by Zichun. Zichun hadn't even used his demonic blade yet. Compared to the powerful Zichun, Guanjun and the others seemed to be having a hard time. This was a test between people of the same level. It was inevitable that everyone would find it strenuous. The 10th 3-star exotic beast appeared in front of Zichun. Its limbs, head, and back were all shining with lightning, indicating that it had a lot of holy thunder demon bones. Whoosh! It charged at Zichun at an extremely fast speed. There's really a speed boost. Seeing this, Zichun's eyes shone. However, your level is too low. Zichun's figure flashed as he used the 9 flashes of holy thunder. While dodging his opponent's attack, he threw a punch downwards. The punch whistled down, distorting the surrounding space. Boom! The 3-star exotic beast's head was hit by Zichun's punch, and its body immediately fell down. However, it didn't die, because the holy thunder demon bone in its head neutralized most of the power of the punch. Zichun was a little surprised. He descended and threw out another punch. His speed had an absolute advantage. He wasn't afraid of anyone of the same level. Rumbling sounds rang out continuously. Powerful forces shook continuously, forming countless ripples that spread out. After a dozen or so punches, Zichun finally shattered his opponent's soul bit by bit. As the 3-star exotic beast died, its body disappeared. This was a great loss for Zichun, because he didn't get a single demonic bone after killing 10 exotic beasts in a row. However, at this moment, the unchanging scene changed. The space in front of him distorted, and a passage appeared. There were stairs that extended into the distance in the passage. Zichun walked towards the stairs curiously. The stairs were in the void. Zichun stepped on the stairs as he walked forward. Every step he took would cause a ripple on the stairs, and lightning would scatter in all directions. Zichun didn't know why, but he still spread out his spiritual senses and didn't find any danger. After climbing about 100 steps, Zichun saw a huge castle appear above his head. The gate of the castle was closed, and Zichun walked forward. Just as he reached the entrance, a ray of light descended and turned into a person. Zichun's expression changed. He took a few steps back and stared at the other party. Those who trespass into the Thunder Fortress shall die. The other party's voice was cold, and his eyes were filled with cold killing intent. An aura that belonged to a 4-star saint spirit gushed out from his body. Thunder Fortress? Hearing this name, Zichun was a little surprised, and his emotions fluctuated a lot. Was this a thunder castle? At this moment, the other party threw a punch forward. As he punched forward, his opponent's palm lit up. During that time, one could faintly see the bones of his hand made of lightning. Seeing this scene, Zichun's expression changed again. He cried out involuntarily, "Holy thunder demon bone!" The fist was already nearing, and it contained an extremely violent force. It seemed like it was going to drown Zichun. On Zichun's right hand, the demon bone was activated. He then used his strongest strength to collide with the incoming fist. At this moment, Zichun was extremely excited. This unknown 4-star saint spirit had indirectly proved to him that humans could also condense the holy thunder demon bone. When the two fists met, a loud boom was heard. Zichun only felt a strong force entering his body, and his body was pushed back. He was even more excited. The other party only had one holy thunder demon bone, and he was already so powerful. In the next moment, Zichun went forward again. He used all 3 of his powers. At the same time, he also used the demon bone palm and the holy thunder explosion. The second fist collided. Accompanied by a deafening sound, the 4-star saint spirit with the holy thunder demon bone flew back and smashed into the door of the main hall. Blood stained the door red. His body slowly fell down and his aura dissipated. With one punch, Zichun destroyed a 4-star saint with the holy thunder demon bone. Before Zichun could carefully examine the other party's holy thunder demon bone, he saw the other party's body disappear into thin air, turning into countless light spots. These light spots were all lightning energy. They looked very pure, like fireflies, and they went straight for Zichun. In the next moment, they merged into Zichun's body. Zichun was shocked. He thought that this was some kind of powerful attack. However, he soon realized that after these light spots entered his body, they divided into 2 parts. One part went into abdomen through his meridians, and the other part went into his body. This energy was very pure and extremely powerful. It was even more powerful than the energy of a Saint Crystal obtained from killing a 4-star exotic beast. Moreover, it didn't need to be deliberately refined. It could quickly strengthen his body. Zichen looked at the closed door in front of him. His eyes were shining. If there were more of such existences behind this door, then this place would be a place of opportunity for Zichen. Zichen's eyes became fervent as he walked forward. The blood on the door had disappeared. He exerted force with both hands, trying to push open the door of the castle. It was very heavy, but it wasn't unshakable. Using 3 stars and 3 powers, the door slowly opened. Countless lightning bolts filled his vision. It was as if the door had been sealed for many years. An ancient aura rushed towards him. There was no danger, only countless lightning bolts. Zichen took a long time to get used to it. He stepped through the door. The door that had just opened behind him closed by itself. In front of him, there was still a staircase, which was divided into several stages. Zichen walked forward. After walking 100 feet, a lightning bolt descended from the sky and turned into a person. Trespassers of the Thunder Fortress, die. It was still the same cold voice as before. After saying that, he started to attack. This time, Zichen noticed that the other party had the Holy Thunder Demon Bone on both of his hands. The two of them clashed several times. This time, Zichen didn't manage to kill the other party. They were evenly matched. Sensing the strength of the other party, Zichen frowned slightly. The other party's fists attacked again. This time, it was 2 fists, which completely blocked Zichen's path. Cold light flashed in his eyes. Zichen used the 9 flash of the Holy Thunder. His body flashed a few times and dodged the other party's attack. At the same time, he unsheathed the demon blade and slashed the other party's neck from the side. Obviously, the other party didn't have an advantage in speed because he only had the hand bones. The other party's body was split into 2. As soon as it fell to the ground, it turned into countless light spots and entered Zichen's body. This time, the light spots were much denser than before. After absorbing the energy, Zichen's cultivation improved a little. This made him very happy, as if he saw the hope of breaking through, because there was still a long way to go. After walking up the stairs of the second section, another person descended from the sky. This time, the other party had the Holy Thunder Demon Bone on all parts of his body.